He describes those who have lost their minds and seek death alongside those blinded by revenge. A red glowing warrior screams in a blind rage, representing the second type of battlefield lunatic. In a dark forest, two soldiers watch as a mysterious hooded figure approaches on horseback. The hooded figure holds a scroll and mutters an unrecognizable language while riding his horse. The blonde soldier questions what the rider is muttering about as they stand their ground. The gray-haired soldier aggressively orders the mysterious rider to get out of the way. The rider continues his strange chant and demands the soldiers move as they block his path. The gray-haired soldier curses him and prepares to fire his crossbow at the hooded horseman. The hooded man holds his scroll aloft as a dark, intense energy begins to swirl. A blinding pillar of blue energy erupts from the rider's position, piercing through the dark sky. The soldiers look up in terror, questioning what the light is and wondering if it's thunder. A massive bolt of blue lightning strikes the ground with a thunderous roar, illuminating the forest. The soldiers scream for help as a violent explosion of blue energy sends them flying backward. A system window appears before the black-haired rider, stating that an ancient mystery seeks his identity. A phone displays Ritsuki Katayama's university acceptance, marking the moment he believed his life would change. A sudden screeching horn sounds as Ritsuki is caught in the blinding glare of a vehicle. A dark screen announces his instant death as blood splatters across the final moments of his life. Ritsuki reflects that his life was crap and laments losing the campus experience he expected. He laments dying in such a pathetic place as his vision fades into a complete darkness. His phone lies on the ground with the shattered screen, signaling the end of his journey. A new light dawns as he describes waking up in an entirely different and unfamiliar world. A wide-eyed, dark-haired baby stares up curiously from the comfort of a soft white bed. A man and woman look down in shock, unable to believe the baby has black hair. He notes that his family are poor farmers in the Empire, living in a dilapidated house. A family portrait shows the black-haired boy standing with his parents, brothers, and a young sister. He and his younger sister wander for food while the rest of the family works hard. Nearby boys mock him, calling him a gross crow because of his distinctively dark hair color. He resents his black hair while sitting by a campfire, reflecting on the bullying he faces. The boy curses the poverty of the Middle Ages and questions why his reincarnation is difficult. His attention is captured by a sudden, quick flash of light reflecting within his dark eyes. A glowing system window appears, identifying him as Ian Raven as he looks on in surprise. The interface pauses with a cryptic message as it prepares to reveal more about his status. He gulps nervously while waiting for the mysterious status window to finish its assessment of him. The window labels his identity as nobody, prompting him to shout a curse in complete disbelief. He gazes at the sky, feeling helpless despite the appearance of the strange magical status window. He fears a life of debt and heavy labor, destined only to inherit his parents' struggles. The boy stands alone in tattered clothes, facing the daunting climb of his new, uncertain life. An oppressive darkness underscores the weight of his despair as he contemplates his very limited future. He believes his only path is farming, unable to dream of any other profession in this world. He laments the lack of any chance to learn something new or change his current life. Holding a cooked fish, he wonders if any place will ever truly take care of him. He imagines excelling as a knight, artist, or scholar if he only had the chance to study. An elegant, decorative frame transitions the scene back to the reality of his current poor life. His little blonde sister looks at the cooked fish with wide eyes and a hungry expression. He kindly offers his sister the food, and she joyfully thanks her big brother for the meal. The siblings excitedly decide to head out to find some sweet berries to eat for dessert. Sunlight filters through the dense leaves of a bush laden with ripe red forest berries. He warns his sister not to go too far as they walk through the green field. A soft munching sound follows as the girl happily eats the berries she found in the bushes. Ian watches his sister eat berries, noting how much she has grown since learning about dessert. A sudden gesha sound makes Ian's eyes widen as he senses something in the forest. A massive shadow moves through the berry bushes as another gasha rustle echoes nearby. Tsu! The children freeze in terror as a giant bear emerges from the dark woods. Ian gasps in shock, pointing toward the terrifying beast that has suddenly appeared. Gwa! The enormous bear lets out a thunderous roar, its eyes glowing with murderous intent. Zune! Ian shields his sister as the bear's massive paw swipes violently through the air. Badong! Ian cowers over his sister as the bear prepares to strike them down. Bachi! A massive pillar of blue lightning strikes the bear, making Ian scream in terror. Smoke rises from the bear as blue energy crackles, leaving the children stunned by the intervention. Dawn! The massive beast collapses heavily onto the grass, defeated by the sudden magical strike. Ian looks up in confusion as a woman approaches the children, admitting she might have gone too far. A mysterious woman stands over the siblings and offers a calm greeting to the little ones. The woman adjusts her glasses and asks the children if they are currently within Feldenberg territory. Ian confirms their location while wondering if this stranger was the one who killed the bear. The brown-haired woman introduces herself as Eridus and explains she is a wandering mage. Ian is struck with sudden disbelief as he processes the fact that she is a mage. Visions of a powerful mage appear, describing an existence of brilliant skills and immense destructive power. The mage's overwhelming presence is highlighted, representing a force capable of total devastation on any battlefield. Ian wonders why such a powerful existence would be visiting a small rural town like theirs. Silence falls over the clearing as Ian processes the shock of meeting a real magic user. Eridus explains she is specifically looking for a black-haired boy who lives in this rural town. Eridus asks if there are other black-haired boys, and Ian confirms he is the only one. A satisfied smile crosses her face as she realizes she has found the right person. Ian points at himself, stunned to realize that he is the one the mage seeks. A scroll reveals instructions to find a black-haired boy in Coldbrunn and take him as an apprentice. Eridus reflects on the cryptic advice that taking the child as an apprentice will lead to good. The scene transitions as the mage observes Ian's humble clothing and trembling posture. Eridus notes Ian's mixture of curiosity and fear before deciding to make him her new apprentice. Eridus laughs heartily while complaining about the eccentric nature and predictions of the mysterious chronomancers. Ian reflects that while mages are often terrifying eccentrics, this person seems very kind. He thinks about the incredible power of her magic, which erased a bear in one hit. Ian tentatively speaks up to ask the mage a question about the magic she just used. He asks the mage to explain the nature of the spell she used on the bear. Eridus notes his interest in magic, and Ian admits that witnessing her power was truly amazing. The mage reassures Ian that magic is nothing special and anyone can learn it with practice. Anyone. Ian is stunned by the idea that anyone, even someone like him, can master magic. With a hopeful expression, Ian asks the mage if he can learn to use magic too. A small knowing smile plays on the mage's lips as she looks at the eager boy. Eridus pats Ian's head and promises he can become a mage if he has a good master. The wondering mage looks at Ian and offers to teach him the secrets of magic herself. Eridus extends her hand toward the boy, asking if he is willing to become her apprentice. Ian realizes this moment represents the life-changing opportunity he has been waiting for. Clenching his fist, Ian realizes a new path is opening up beyond his life of farming. Ian accepts the offer, shaking her hand to finalize his new journey as a magic apprentice. The scene shifts to a large house and windmill perched atop a high rocky cliff. Thud! Ian sits at a desk, looking startled as a massive book is placed before him. Eridus introduces the basics of magic, while Ian recalls getting permission from his parents and lord. Eridus encourages him to give his absolute best, and Ian declares his readiness for the challenge. Standing in her workshop, Eridus asks if they should begin, and Ian enthusiastically agrees. Ian studies intensely as his progress bar for the Moronius language increases from 1 to 53. A system window shows that his progress in the Moronius language has finally reached 99. The interface confirms 100 completion, granting Ian the ability to perfectly command the Archmage's magical language. 7 years have passed, and the older boy places his hand firmly on an ornate book. Eridus concludes Ian's classroom studies and tells him it is time to move to the next step. A system window identifies the boy as a magic initiate with the skill to manipulate magical languages. Jagged mountains pierce through a vast sea of clouds under a bright and clear blue sky. Ian screams "wah" in pure panic as he suddenly finds himself plummeting through the open air. Eridus watches with a calm, smiling expression as her apprentice panics about her moving too fast. While falling, Ian desperately reflects that his entire training over the past 6 years was just language. The boy cries out for help as a brilliant, blinding light shines from the sky above him. Eridus calls out to him from the ground, instructing her apprentice to listen for the voices. Ian tumbles through the air while questioning what kind of voices he could possibly hear while falling. He laments that the only thing he can hear is the roar of the wind around him. The small glowing spirits whisper to each other in surprise at seeing a human flying through the sky. Ian recognizes the name Moronius as he continues to float amidst the swirling currents of the wind. A notification appears announcing that Ian has acquired air magic and the ability to manipulate the wind. Ian ponders the mysteries of great nature as he safely descends toward the lush and green forest. Eridus giggles at his disheveled state while Ian grumbles about her dangerous and ridiculous teaching methods. A robed figure channels power, illustrating how mages borrow strength by communing with the mysteries of nature. Eridus smiles warmly and explains to her apprentice that this communion is the true essence of magic. Ian looks at his master with a quiet expression as he processes her explanation of magical power. Eridus explains that now he can hear the wind, he must listen for the next mysterious voice. Ian confidently accepts the challenge, determined to master the next stage of his difficult magical education. Eridus casts a spell to begin water magic training, sending Ian deep into the swirling blue depths. Submerged underwater, Ian communicates with water spirits who find his presence dirty and demand he leave. Moving to the next element, Eridus points toward the trees to signal the start of ice magic. A cold voice warns the human that his body is freezing as snow falls all around him. Ian shivers uncontrollably while stuck inside a wooden barrel atop a frozen, snow-covered mountain peak. Eridus praises Ian's incredible learning speed as he collapses onto the grass in a state of exhaustion. Eridus snaps her fingers and conjures a massive roaring wall of fire for his next elemental lesson. Ian recoils in terror and shouts for his master as the intense heat and flames erupt nearby. Fire spirits gather within the flames, questioning if it is acceptable for them to burn the human. Fear is reflected in Ian's wide eyes as he stares at the dancing flames and hidden spirits. Water drips from stalactites in a dark, damp cave as the setting shifts for his earth training. Standing in the darkness, a weary Ian prepares to begin his final lesson in earth magic. A mysterious voice echoes through the cavern, explaining that a lack of movement does not mean stillness. Ian looks around the dark cave in confusion, wondering if the earth itself is speaking to him. Ian notes his struggle with the element, suspecting his aptitude for earth magic is currently lacking. Eridas suggests that her apprentice might need to seek more training elsewhere to overcome his current plateau. A system window informs Ian that he has earned bonus skill points to increase his magic proficiency. Ian grins to himself, acknowledging his status as a cheat player who can bypass traditional training limits. Ian selects his earth magic skill to upgrade, frustrated by his inability to understand the element's voice. A brilliant blue light erupts as Ian uses his system points to force a magical breakthrough. Molten lava flows beneath the cave floor as a deep voice addresses the tiny human standing nearby. The earth warns Ian of impending lava spouts as he finally achieves a connection with the element. Realizing he has succeeded, Ian decides to leave the cave and report his progress to his master. Ian conjures a small flame on a torch, commanding it to burn as he masters basic fire. An unseen entity complains about the light as Ian walks through the darkness with his burning torch. Ian pauses in the cave, wondering if the voice he just heard belonged to the earth itself. Ian peers into the void as a dark entity reveals its presence. A bright full moon shines over the quiet forest during the deep night. Eridas considers her future plans to attend a conference for fire sorcerers. Ian rushes toward his master, calling out to her with great excitement. Eridas welcomes the boy back, thrilled that he successfully completed his difficult training. Ian proudly shares that he managed to master darkness magic during his time alone. The mage looks on with a bewildered expression, shocked by his unusual progress. Ian stands confidently as his master questions his connection to the elemental voices. Eridas wonders how the boy could have befriended the shy spirit of the darkness. Concerned by her sudden silence, Ian asks his master if everything is all right. Eridas calls the boy's name, and he answers her with focused attention. The mage announces that their long training period on the mountain is over. Ian asks about their next destination, but she clarifies they aren't going together. Under a towering tree, Eridas explains that they must now go their separate ways. Eridas points the way toward a city where a conference for chronomancers is held. She suggests that if it is his destiny, he will learn space-time magic there. Ian reacts with confusion to the sudden mention of such advanced and rare magic. Eridas laughs and reaches out to give the boy a fond pat on the head. The mage thinks about how the boy possesses a natural talent for the mysterious. She believes that Ian has the potential to eventually control the flow of time. Ian looks down with a slight blush as his master playfully ruffles his hair. The scene shifts as the night breeze moves through the surrounding forest. Eridas waves goodbye, asking him to meet her in 3 years in Dorwald. A colorful sunset fills the sky, marking the passage of several days. Cheep cheep, small birds call out as the evening sun sinks below the horizon. The warm light of the setting sun falls across the roofs of a village. Merchants in the marketplace call out to attract customers to their various stalls. Ian walks through the town, contemplating the journey toward the Northern Conference. He reflects on his master's unpredictable nature as he prepares for his trip. Hearing a call for northern travelers, Ian decides to join a merchant caravan. The boy chooses to travel with others rather than going on his own. Ian sits with a group of guards and travelers around a glowing campfire. The boy enjoys a simple meal while resting among the group of strangers. A gray-bearded man introduces himself as Leet, the head of the merchant guild. Leek asks if Ian is aware of the terrors residing on Dragon Mountain. A vision of a massive black dragon appears within glowing purple magical circles. The merchant describes the dark power that permeates the peaks of the mountain. He warns Ian about the appearance of a real and deadly drake. Purple energy slashes through the darkness, representing the dragon's destructive magical power. Leek puts an arm around Ian, asking if he has any useful survival skills. The man laughs at Ian's silence before asking what the boy does for a living. Ian looks at the group and simply states that he is a wizard. Leek recoils in pure shock, shouting out in disbelief at the boy's claim. The merchant panics while a mysterious girl in a brown hood watches them. The hooded girl with bright yellow eyes looks over her shoulder at Ian. The armored guards express their utter disbelief that such a young boy is a mage. Ian is taken aback by the sudden shift in the campfire's casual atmosphere. Leek begins to act extremely humble, offering Ian more food with nervous laughter. The merchant bows frantically while Ian stares at him in a state of confusion. The hooded figure stares intently at Ian, skeptical of his stated magical profession. Guards around a campfire laugh mockingly, dismissive of the boy's claim to be a wizard. A guard sneers that even a stray dog could be a wizard, leaving Ian deeply confused. The girl in the brown hood approaches Ian, calling out to get his attention. She leans in close, advising Ian to assert himself if he truly possesses magical power. Sitting together, she explains that mercenaries will inevitably take advantage of anyone who appears meek. Watching the rowdy guards, she insists he must intimidate them to gain their respect. The yellow-eyed girl promises that a display of power will ensure the group's absolute protection. Ian stares at her in stunned silence, clearly taken aback by her intense and pragmatic outlook. Ian reflects on her advice, noting that he rarely finds reason to lose his temper. His focus shifts to a guard with reddish-brown hair who is roughly handling a wooden bowl. A quick sound of scrubbing rings out as the guard cleans the dish with a leaf. Disgust washes over Ian as he realizes the man just used spit to clean his plate. Rumble. The ground trembles as a sudden localized earthquake shocks the unsuspecting, panicking guard. Ian addresses the guard with cold authority, his voice cutting through the man's sudden confusion. Standing tall and menacing, Ian demands to know why the man spit on his dinner plate. Terror grips the guard as he stammers, completely overwhelmed by Ian's sudden and intense aura. Thud, the man throws himself onto the dirt, begging the young wizard for his forgiveness. With an annoyed expression, the guard weakly claims he was simply trying to polish the dish. Ian shouts for him to use water instead, but the guard insists that water is filthy. The boy looks on with a blank expression of pure disbelief at the guard's logic. The guard explains that river water is full of parasites, claiming spit is actually much cleaner. Ian is mentally short-circuiting as the man doubles down on his bizarre, unhygienic stance. Under the moonlight, the guard's absurd claim about sanitary spit echoes mockingly through the dark mountains. The other guards watch in silence, finding the entire confrontation to be utterly unbelievable. Ian laments the wild hygiene standards of the era while a guard addresses him respectfully. Ian speaks a magical command and the campfire instantly explodes into a towering pillar of flame. The guards reel back in shock, shouting as the intense heat and light erupt before them. The hooded girl watches with wide eyes, genuinely startled by the sheer scale of Ian's magic. Shrouded in shadow, Ian sternly orders the guards to go fetch some actual water immediately. Ian chases the guards away, screaming in frustration about their filth while they flee in terror. The moon hangs high over the quiet camp as the scene shifts to later that night. A search party of guards moves through the forest, confirming they are looking for a girl named Kathy. A guard spots Kathy sitting under a tree, secretly plotting to take her for himself. The group emerges from the brush, announcing that they have finally located their intended target. A guard approaches with a red face and a predatory smile, asking her to come along. Suddenly, the guard's expression hardens as he stops dead in his tracks, sensing something wrong. Masked attackers appear from the darkness, grabbing Kathy as a surprised voice calls out. The searching guards shout in alarm, demanding to know the identity of these sudden intruders. Slick, a blade pierces through a guard's chest, prompting his companion to scream out in horror. Clang, assailants charge with a roar, but the masked man dismisses them as weak small fry. Kathy's world is turned upside down as she is hoisted into the air, eyes wide with terror. The masked man hauls her away through the chaos while someone nearby shouts in surprise. Bam! He slams her down into the brush, moving with cold, calculated efficiency during the fight. The girl cringes on the ground, helpless and trembling as her captor looms over her. The attackers yell that the target is escaping, urging their comrades to catch the fleeing girl. Back in the safety of his tent, Ian lies fast asleep, unaware of the nearby violence. Ian's eyes snap open as he mumbles about his lingering disgust for the guard's hygiene. Gasp! Ian bolts upright as whispering spirits warn him that hostile humans are approaching the camp. The spirits become frantic, shouting for the boy to wake up quickly because humans are coming. Ian sits on his bed, focused and alert as he senses a dangerous presence nearby. Ian stands ready as he is suddenly called upon by those seeking help. Leek rushes into the scene, frantically shouting that the current situation is extremely dire. A full moon glows through the clouds, casting a cold light over the chaos. Chaos erupts as masked bandits clash violently with the guards in the dark forest night. Gwa! A spray of blood fills the air as a masked attacker ruthlessly slashes his victim. A heavy boot stomps on a fallen man as the attacker declares he welcomes the slaughter. Standing over a body, the masked leader commands his men to find the target woman immediately. Kathy hides behind a tree, trembling as she watches the mercenaries butcher the guards nearby. Huddled in terror, Kathy desperately wonders what to do as the threat of capture looms closer. Schlick! A sharp blade suddenly stops inches from Kathy's face, ending her attempt to hide. A gray-haired mercenary finds her, mockingly noting her hiding spot while Kathy stares in horror. The mercenary sneers, threatening to sever her limbs if she does not stand up this instant. Tears stream down Kathla's face as she despairs, believing her life is finally at its end. The man swings his sword downward, but the strike is interrupted by a sudden violent force. Close-up reveals Ian's eye glowing with intense magical power as he focuses his energy. Boom! A powerful blast of energy sends the attacker flying backward while he screams in agony. Ian arrives in a surge of blue energy, coming to the rescue as Kathy looks up. Kathy looks up in surprise as a gentle hand is placed upon her trembling shoulder. Ian smiles reassuringly, telling the girl to stay close and follow him to safety. Kathy looks at her rescuer with wide golden eyes, nodding silently as she finds courage. The survivors move in a line through the dark, keeping physical contact to stay together. Leek and the remaining travelers catch up, reporting to Ian that everyone is finally ready. Ian confirms the group's status and prepares to cast a significant spell for their escape. Ian calls upon the element of darkness, preparing to unleash a powerful magical technique. Ian raises his hand, summoning a massive surge of blue magical energy toward the sky. The mercenaries look around in confusion, asking what is happening as magical energy fills the area. Rumble. Ian demands the group light their torches immediately as the ground begins to shake. Disoriented voices call out in the dark, highlighting the panic and confusion of the scene. Ian leads the group forward through the shadows as they maintain their physical contact and formation. A system notification announces Ian has activated dark vision to navigate the total night darkness. The group huddles together as a mercenary holding a torch suddenly discovers their hidden location. The bandit asks where they think they are going while Leek begs for his life. Ian focuses his power, commanding the essence of fire to burn his enemies to ashes. Whoosh, a pillar of intense flame erupts, consuming the attacker who screams as he is incinerated. The charred mercenary falls to the ground as the fire spell completes its deadly task. The other masked attackers stand frozen in shock, witnessing the terrifying power of the mage. Ian looks on with a grim face, hoping the display of magic forces a retreat. The mercenaries panic at the sight of a mage, yet their leader commands a charge. A mercenary stops dead in his tracks as a massive draconic jaw opens right behind him. The man screams as the presence of a massive monster dominates the dark forest battlefield. The remaining mercenaries stare in paralyzed fear at the colossal red-scaled beast before them. Ian is visibly shaken, staring in disbelief at the unexpected arrival of such a monster. A massive drake with red scales and glowing eyes reveals its lethal and predatory presence. The dragon crushes and kills the fleeing mercenaries in a display of raw primal power. Terror reigns as the drake lunges forward, devouring another attacker while the others flee screaming. Leek and the survivors huddle behind Ian, trembling as they realize a dragon is present. Ian realizes the gravity of the situation, noting they are doomed if they stay here. A system window appears informing Ian that he has just witnessed a profound primeval mystery. The notification confirms Ian has acquired the powerful new skill of summoning arts for himself. Ian considers the new ability to communicate with mysterious life forms while facing the massive drake. Ian stares at the massive creature in disbelief, noting that even a drake has appeared. Ian reflects on his past encounters with mysteries, while panels show him falling through a watery void. Gripping his pouch with determination, the boy decides to act if this situation is truly a mystery. Grrr! A low, menacing growl vibrates from the massive beast's throat as it looms over the group. Leek and Kathy cower behind Ian, desperately calling out to the Master Mage in absolute terror. Grrr! The massive drake continues its predatory growling while Ian stands his ground against the monster. Ian encourages himself while blue mana swirls around him, trusting in the mysteries he has studied. Stealing his nerves, the young wizard puts a hand to his chest and shouts to be heard. Pointing at his own chest, Ian boldly proclaims to the giant, confused monster that he is a friend. In a comical moment, Chibi Ian holds a stop sign, yelling for the drake to stop fighting. Grrr! The massive creature narrows its eyes, clearly skeptical of the boy's bizarre and friendly approach. Leek and the older man whisper together, wondering what the mage is doing while they stay quiet. Ian maintains a calm and focused expression while waiting for the colossal predator's next reaction. Panic sets in for Ian as he struggles to interpret the monster's growls and silent communication. A glowing system window prompts him to use his accumulated points to increase his skill levels. Ian focuses on the interface, deciding to invest all his points into the summoning arts skill. A notification confirms that Ian's proficiency in summoning arts has successfully increased following his point allocation. Ian's eyes widen in realization as he suddenly begins to understand the thoughts of the drake. Grrr! The boy speaks politely to the monster, addressing it as Mr. Drake with newfound confidence. The beast bellows at the group, demanding they speak up if they have something to say. Encouraged by the monster's response, Ian finds his approach effective while his companions watch in shock. A quick sound of a throat clearing rings out as Ian considers his next choice of words. Ian explains to the creature that he has no intention of engaging it in a fight. The drake scoffs at a human's audacity, but Ian humbly admits they would lose instantly anyway. Leek and his companion are completely baffled, questioning if the boy is actually using telepathy. Kathy watches the strange exchange in silence, her expression one of utter confusion and intense focus. The giant drake agrees that killing such weak humans is far too much trouble to bother. A sense of relief washes over Ian as he realizes his initial negotiation tactic is actually working. Ian's expression shifts back to seriousness as he realizes there is still a significant hurdle to overcome. The monster roars about being in an extremely bad mood, sending the survivors into another panic. Tears stream down Leek's face as he begs the Master Mage for protection from the beast. Frustration colors Ian's face as he curses under his breath while trying to manage the situation. Ian feels the weight of the moment, desperately wondering what his next move should be. Ian decides to be direct, resolving to break through the situation despite being told to leave. A close-up of the monster's predatory eye captures a hint of intrigue at the boy's persistence. Ian asks the drake the reason for its bad mood, but the beast rejects the human's query. The drake's attention is captured as Ian suggests that he might actually be able to help. The monster questions the arrogance of a mere human and what someone so small could possibly do. A faint, confident smile begins to play on Ian's lips as he prepares to show his power. The night wind rustles the trees as the scene holds on the tense atmosphere of the clearing. Light spills through the darkness as the travelers react with astonishment to the mana building around them. The massive beast tilts its head curiously, acknowledging the interesting turn the conversation has taken. Swirling with brilliant blue light, Ian presents himself as a mage seeking the mystery of the world. The drake notes that the situation has become interesting while watching the glowing display of energy. Ian offers his humble assistance to the Drake, hoping to use his magic to resolve its troubles. The Drake falls silent, staring intently at the young human while considering the sincerity of his offer. With a calm look, Ian notes that the real negotiation with the ancient monster begins now. Shh! The sounds of the forest return to normal as the immediate threat begins to subside. Under the light of the full moon, Ian senses that the Drake's lethal bloodlust has finally vanished. Relief floods the boy as the crisis passes and he prepares to demonstrate his true capabilities. Ian resolves to handle the beast on his terms rather than being led by it. Ian's focus is interrupted by a memory of a voice calling his name for a lesson. A brown-haired woman with glasses explains that magic requires communication with the world's hidden mysteries. The younger boy listens intently as she emphasizes the importance of building relationships with these forces. She teaches that every mystery has a personality that a mage must empathize with and understand. Returning to the present, Ian wears a cunning smile, determined to manipulate the massive blue Drake. Ian summons his magical system interface, calling upon an all-purpose window to find a specific solution. The glowing screen displays a guide on mastering summoning magic written by an author named Deepening. Excited by the find, Ian studies the magical text while a smaller version of him celebrates. A close-up of the boy's eye reflects his intense focus as he reads the ancient instructions. The window advises offering strong alcohol to larger creatures to win their favor and cooperation. A transitional prompt on the interface signals the next step in his tactical plan for negotiation. Ian realizes the next phase involves using excessive flattery, though the prospect clearly makes him nervous. The boy looks completely bewildered and out of his element by the bizarre social requirements of magic. Prostrating himself in front of the confused beast, Ian despairs over his own introverted nature. Standing tall again, the young mage realizes he must win the creature's heart to achieve success. The towering Drake tilts its head, looking down at the small human with a questioning expression. Ian politely informs the monster that he has a gift and requests permission to present it. The creature agrees to see the offering, signaling the boy to bring the gift forward immediately. Ian calls out to the gray-haired man named Leek, who responds with a startled, nervous shout. With urgency in his voice, the young wizard commands his companion to move much faster. Several bottles of liquor and wooden mugs are brought out from the survivor's supplies for the beast. Looking at the small bottles, the massive Drake expresses disappointment at such a seemingly tiny gift. Ian quickly explains that humans value quality over quantity, masking his internal panic with a smile. Carefully, the boy pours the liquid into a wooden mug, the sound of splashing filling the silence. Ian holds out the full mug, offering the first taste of the human drink to the monster. The giant predator sniffs the air, recoiling slightly from the unfamiliar and pungent scent of the alcohol. Looming menacingly over the boy, the beast asks if this is part of some wicked human plot. Ian reassures the suspicious creature and offers to drink it himself first to prove it is safe. The boy takes a long, deep gulp of the strong liquor while the survivors watch in suspense. Leek and the other travelers stare with wide eyes, worried about the potential reaction of the Drake. Wiping his mouth, a blushing Ian confirms the drink's potency while trying to maintain his calm demeanor. Intrigued by the boy's lack of ill effects, the Drake acknowledges the harsh but interesting scent. Ian encourages the monster to try taste, promising that it will be a satisfying experience. Using its sharp claws, the massive beast delicately lifts the tiny wooden mug toward its face. The Drake tentatively tastes the liquid, its expression unreadable as the survivors watch with bated breath. Silence falls over the clearing as Leek and his companions wait for the monster's final verdict. Gulp! The beast swallows the drink, a faint red blush appearing on its scaly blue cheeks. When Ian asks for its opinion, the Drake stoically claims the drink isn't particularly delicious despite appearances. A close-up of the boy's eye reveals his realization that the negotiation is finally going his way. Ian enthusiastically offers another cup, claiming the next selection is even better than the first one. High above the forest, the full moon shines brightly in the clear, star-filled night sky. Gulp! The monster drinks more of the alcohol, its face becoming increasingly flushed and satisfied. With a joyous shout, the Drake admits it likes the gift while Ian breathes a sigh of relief. A pile of empty barrels sits discarded as Ian marvels at the beast's incredible capacity for alcohol. Wearing a tiny crown, the drunken Drake celebrates while Ian gives a thumbs up to its endurance. The boy reflects on his failed plan to escape while the monster was supposed to be sleeping. Frustration sets in as Ian finishes the last mug, noting the wagon's entire supply is now gone. The Drake's mood shifts to serious as it recalls a question the human had asked it earlier. Sitting together in the quiet clearing, the boy confirms he still seeks an answer from the beast. Ian observes the blushing blue Drake, wondering why the massive creature has suddenly become so sentimental. Under the dark night sky, the monster laments that its nest is small and poorly located. Ian is stunned to hear that the beast had a girlfriend who found their humble nest cozy. The blue-scaled creature looks somber as it reflects on secrets kept from it for years. The boy listens while the monster explains how others began to mock its partner's situation. The Drake expresses deep regret for the hardships its partner faced because of their relationship. The monster roars about breaking up, sending Leek and his companion into another panic. Wah! The Drake wails loudly while Ian watches as the travelers faint from the shock. Looking at the weeping creature, Ian realizes he is starting to feel sympathetic toward it. Ian ponders to himself if he can use the monster's emotional state to his advantage. The young mage calls out the name Drake, catching the attention of the confused monster. Ian steps forward and offers to use his magic to fix and improve the monster's nest. The Drake is taken aback, questioning if the small human is truly offering to help. Ian wears a cunning smile while explaining that his magical assistance comes with an exchange. Standing under the bright full moon, the boy asks the monster to grant one request. A red-armored warrior with long black hair stands before a backdrop of repeated promotional tests. A red panel details high-quality scan information and request support through a community link. Bright clouds fill the sky above a quote regarding the power of unity and cooperation. Ian stands alone in the morning forest, deep in thought as the new day begins. Leek groggily wakes up on the wagon, gasping and mumbling about missing someone very much. Ian pokes the blushing Leek's forehead, causing the older man to let out a gasp. A red mark of irritation appears on Ian's head as his patience with Leek breaks. Ian threatens to rip Leek's fingers off if the man doesn't snap out of it. Ian looms over the traveler with a terrifying expression, silencing the frightened gray-haired man instantly. Wah! The survivors scream as they are jolted awake, reacting with total shock and confusion. Multiple travelers fall from the wagon, landing in a chaotic pile on the grass. Kathy rubs her head in pain while Leek groans, both feeling dazed after fainting earlier. In a chibi scene, Leek asks what happened while Ian pulls the wagon of sleeping travelers. Ian frustratedly notes everyone fainted from the Drake's roar and regrets saving the ungrateful group. Kathy asks if the Drake returned home, but Ian says the beast is waiting above. The men huddle together in terror, wondering if the monster is waiting to eat them. Ian explains the Drake is waiting for him after a life-saving deal he negotiated earlier. The blue-haired woman looks at Ian with wide golden eyes, repeating the mention of a deal. Moved to tears, the survivors praise the wizard for sacrificing himself to ensure their safety. A flashback shows Ian promising to fix the nest if the Drake releases the human group. Leek and his companion cheer loudly, hailing Ian Meredith Raven as a truly great wizard. Ian reacts with bewilderment as a strange, celebratory new system notification window suddenly appears. The system displays a song title praising Lord Ian for supposedly defeating the powerful roaring Drake. Floating bubbles proclaim Ian is amazing and cool for scolding the monster into total submission. Exaggerated chibi panels show Ian subduing the Drake and forcing the massive beast to submit. With a whirlpool of emotion, the travelers celebrate the wizard's supposed victory over the beast. The survivors pledge to protect the wizard with their lives, leaving Ian questioning their words. Ian directs the travelers to prepare for departure and wait for his return without moving. The group affirms their unity of mind while Ian gives a weary and quiet response. Kathy suggests they first confirm the mercenary count, leaving the men shouting in total confusion. A close-up of Kathy's golden eyes shows her giving a suspicious glance back toward the woods. The blue-haired woman walks away into the bright forest, leaving the others behind for now. A massive dark cave is revealed as the Drake announces they have arrived at its nest. Ian stands inside the towering rock cavern, looking up at the colossal monster with shock. The Drake warns the boy that it is too late to back out of their deal. Ian reflects on his exhaustion while his stamina bar shows it is dangerously low, plummeting as a long, weary sigh sounds. Planning to finish quickly so he can finally rest, the young wizard contemplates reshaping the cavern walls to create more space. Gathering his remaining focus, the young mage closes his eyes for one final effort. Ian calls out to the earth, his voice carrying the weight of his dwindling energy. A shadowy, glowing presence manifests within the cave and questions why the human has returned to bother it once again. While the boy attempts to ask for a favor, the irritable spirit declares it is far too busy and not in the mood. Feeling like a total nuisance, the wizard informs the waiting Drake that the earth spirit refused his request and will only try again later. Worry flashes across Ian's face as he fears the earth spirit's growing volatile anger. The massive beast stoically accepts the rejection, noting that the earth refusal cannot be helped and thanking the boy for his effort. Taken by surprise, the boy looks up as the creature begins to speak gently. Acknowledging that they are not destined partners, the monster expresses sincere gratitude for Ian's hard work on its behalf. Touched by the monster's kindness, the young wizard looks up and softly whispers its name. Looking down at the human, the blue Drake asks the wizard for his name while Ian identifies himself as Ian Meredith Raven. The creature introduces himself as Drake Longtail and warmly offers friendship to the small human boy. Repeating the name Longtail, Ian reaches up to grasp the monster's massive claw to seal their new bond. As they shake hands, a system window announces that Ian has acquired a new summoning skill to call upon his friend, Drake. Shimmering white light fills the cavern, marking a peaceful shift in their newfound magical bond. Despite his new power, the young mage feels guilty for being unable to provide anything meaningful for his dragon friend. Ian turns around quickly when the Drake calls his name with an unexpectedly soft expression. Drake gestures toward a massive hoard of treasure, inviting Ian to choose as many jewels as he likes to celebrate their friendship. Golden coins and sparkling gems fill the cavern, representing the dragon's legendary and immense greed. Clutching a sparkling stone, the boy laments that the earth spirit would surely listen to his request if it saw such treasure. A sun spark of pure inspiration hits the boy as he looks at the gemstone. Holding the glowing jewel, Ian asks his friend for permission to draw on the ground with it. The massive beast tilts its head in total confusion, questioning what the human means by scribbling on the floor. Kneeling, the boy uses the gem to power a complex and glowing magic circle he draws upon the cavern floor. Confident in his plan, Ian recalls his master's secret teachings on appeasing sulking magical spirits. A diagram explains that if a mystery is sulking, one can simply send a gift via a specialized magic circle. While the drake watches with curiosity, the young mage tells his friend to just watch the magic unfold. Energized, the boy shouts to the earth once more as magical power swirls around him. The spirit asks what the human wants, and Ian commands it to move the rocks and smooth out the cavern walls. Pillars of blue light erupt from the circle as the gemstone's power is channeled as a gift for the ancient spirit. Rock cracks as loud, sharp crack sound, followed by a deep, heavy rumble as the cavern begins to change. Sunlight streams into the cavern, revealing a beautiful, lush view of the world outside. Bathed in brilliant white light, the drake gazes at the incredible results of the magic. A close-up reveals the monster's eye, reflecting the awe of seeing its transformed home. The creature looks around in total disbelief, questioning if this grand place is truly its own nest. The once dark cave is revealed as a majestic archstone palace with a spectacular view as a grand fanfare place. Overwhelmed by emotion, a chibi version of the drake weeps while Ian suspects the beast is moved to tears. The beast expresses its delight at the wide space, beautiful design, and wonderful new scent. Sniffing the air with joy, the drake asks if Ian also produced the pleasant aroma with his magic. Grabbing Ian in a firm grab, the drake celebrates its new home and dreams of a safe future for its family. Despite his success, the boy looks pale and exhausted, maintaining a weak smile while a sharp, high-pitched screech rings. Ian's legs wobble as he struggles to stand, his vision fading while he sways unsteadily. Panic sets in as the boy's face turns purple and he begins coughing up blood. The drake reacts with terror as it notices the blood, shaking uncontrollably as it asks if its friend is okay. Ian collapses heavily onto the floor while a heavy, sudden thud sounds in the cavern. The massive beast catches the boy and desperately begs its friend to hang in there and survive. Resting against the monster, the exhausted boy sighs while pondering what he should do next. The drake looks back with wide eyes, shouting for the wizard in a panic voice. The blue-haired woman runs through the cavern, her expression filled with urgency and fear. Startled by the sudden intrusion, the massive blue drake stares with wide golden eyes. A determined glint shines in the woman's golden eye as she faces the beast. Kathy arrives to find the drake protectively cradling the unconscious Ian in its massive claw. Drake gently adjusts his grip, ensuring his small human friend is safe and stable. The beast lets out a fierce growl, baring its sharp teeth to warn the approaching woman. Desperate to explain, Kathy pleads with Drake to listen and wait before attacking her. In a frantic display, Kathy waves her arms while explaining she is Ian's friend. The woman makes a large OK sign above her head, hoping the drake understands her. Tilting its head in bewilderment, the massive creature repeats the word friend with total confusion. Ian groans in pain, drawing the attention of both the concerned woman and the monster. Slumped against the cavern wall, the young wizard remains weak and drained of all energy. Night falls over the world as a lone candle flickers inside the majestic stone palace. Ian slowly begins to stir, letting out a soft moan as he starts to regain consciousness. Reaching out a gloved hand, the delirious boy searches for his smartphone in the dark. His fingers touch something unexpectedly soft and warm, leaving the boy puzzled in his daze. In a state of total confusion, Ian wonders if his phone somehow turned into gummy. He notes the strange sensation feels exactly like the soft, squishy paw of a cat. A sudden voice asks if he is awake, causing Ian to snap out of his delirium. Shocked, the boy realizes he has been resting his head comfortably on Kathy's soft lap. Ian quickly sits up, demanding to know why the woman is present in the drake's nest. Rubbing his face, the boy wonders if he is still dreaming about watching videos online. Kathy looks down at the wizard with an expression of deep worry and quiet relief. Grabbing his head, Ian finally recalls how he passed out from extreme magical exhaustion earlier. Ian reflects on the severe physical toll of forcing his summoning magic level to increase. The blue-haired woman stares at him intensely, making Ian feel uneasy under her golden gaze. Mortified by his uncool collapse, the wizard hides his face and wishes for a quick escape. Kathy explains that the drake left suddenly when Ian asks where his monster friend went. Ian imagines the drake meeting a mate, wondering if the beast went to visit a girlfriend. The woman apologizes for the trouble while Ian insists he is feeling much better now. Ian questions how she entered the nest, knowing the drake usually keeps everyone away. Kathy mentions using a specific language, leaving Ian baffled by her mention of Mararos. Dazed, the boy wonders if the woman possesses some strange form of real-time machine translation. A close-up captures the woman's lips as she prepares to reveal a heavy personal truth. Kathy tells the wizard that there is something very important she needs to ask him. She begins to speak about the violent attack that occurred in the woods last night. With a pained look, the woman confesses that the dangerous encounter happened because of her. Trembling, she apologizes for causing so much trouble and putting everyone in grave danger. Ian notices the mood shift abruptly, feeling the atmosphere in the cavern grow heavy. A dark memory flashes of the woman cowering in fear amidst the shadowy forest trees. Clearing her throat, Kathy regains her composure and looks the wizard directly in the eye. Kathy asks if Ian suspects her of being a bandit, but the boy quickly denies it. Ian jokes that he is a beautiful bandit, a fantasy staple that receives no denial. Leaning closer, the woman reveals that her true identity is actually a very well-kept secret. As Ian imagines her a magical princess, she prepares to drop a major bombshell. She reveals her real name is Lucy of the Tullian family, a noble house. Ian listens in disbelief as Lucy explains the bandits were sent by her own fiancé. Ian imagines a petty lover's quarrel, but Lucy's sharp gaze immediately shuts down the thought. Lucy clarifies that she was fleeing into the wilderness to hide from her pursuing fiancé. Reaching out, she admits the recent attack destroyed her confidence to keep running alone. Lucy grips Ian's arm tightly as she desperately pleads with him to help her escape. Ian looks shocked and tells the woman to wait as she continues her frantic plea. Ian asks why she is fleeing and questions if her fiancé did something bad. Lucy explains that the Tullian family is a noble house ruling over the Fianref region. Her house lacked enough knights, leaving them constantly vulnerable to various external enemies. The threat of a territory war put the Tullian family on the verge of destruction. To save her family, Lucy was betrothed to a powerful former mercenary captain while a loud, clear tolling sounds as the heavy iron bell rings out. As a renowned captain, the man's reputation alone was enough to deter external forces. At first, the mercenary seemed perfectly content with his new status as a noble son-in-law. The man smiles warmly at Lucy, who looks on with a hopeful expression from afar. In a memory of better times, Lucy smiles brightly while dressed in her fine formal gown. A sharp, sudden crash sounds as the man begins abusing his new position to seize more power. The mercenary began seeing other women while openly looking down on his future bride. Finally reaching their limit, Lucy's parents demanded an annulment of the engagement contract. A dark atmosphere surrounds Lucy as she recalls the man's horrific response to the annulment. Lucy cries out in agony, revealing that the mercenary poisoned her parents to stop them. Ian is visibly stunned by the horrific revelation that her own fiancé murdered her parents. Lucy explains he killed them to keep his power, knowing an annulment would end everything. Ian looks down with a grim expression, processing the weight of Lucy's tragic backstory. The boy thinks the man is a total scumbag for his cruel and manipulative actions. Lucy notes that without the marriage, the man remains a commoner with no inheritance rights. Refusing to marry a murderer, Lucy admits she escaped with the help of a loyal servant. The woman explains that the mercenary will likely never stop pursuing her for the marriage. Looking directly at Ian, Lucy desperately begs for his help to secure her safe escape. Ian considers her predicament, disgusted by the thought of someone killing their in-laws for power. Ian imagines the sinister fiancé looming over the small, vulnerable Lucy in a terrifying display. The boy reflects on the incomprehensible and greedy thought processes of medieval power seekers. Crying, Lucy promises to reward the wizard on the honor of her noble family. Ian asks why she trusts him, wondering what would happen if he chose to betray her. Lucy retorts that selling her out would only earn him a few miserable silver coins. A nervous heavy gulp sounds as the woman prepares to make her next desperate move. Ian looks completely baffled, asking for clarification on what she intends to give him. Lucy's eyes glow with determination as she offers him ownership of the entire Tullian house. A promotional screen provides details on reading more chapters and joining the group's Discord server. The two sit together in the quiet cavern as a candle flickers beside them. Ian ponders the possibility of marrying Lucy and rising to a position of quasi-nobility. Ian reflects on this huge opportunity while weighing his future as a mage's apprentice. The boy considers if he should focus on politics or perfecting his magic skills instead. Ian realizes that helping Lucy would likely provide him with invaluable experience as a mage. He considers that the travel costs could also be easily covered by this new arrangement. The wizard decides to first evade their pursuers and let the rest play out naturally. Lucy looks up at Ian with a tearful expression and begins to speak honestly. Ian suggests she find a skilled swordsman, noting that mages are not typically frontline fighters. Lucy looks crushed and begins to weep, seemingly losing hope after Ian's cautious words. Ian stands up and scratches his head while offering to at least help her escape. A close-up of Lucy's eye reflects the image of the wizard standing before her. A soft rhythmic hic sounds as the woman hides her face while Ian asks why she is crying. Ian reaches out to comfort the crying woman, repeating his promise to help her escape. Lucy reaches up to grasp Ian's hand, sealing their new pact with a firm grip. With tears streaming down her face, Lucy expresses her sincere gratitude to the young wizard. Ian rests while a soft sniffle sounds from the crying woman huddled against his chest. Opening his eyes, the black-haired wizard listens to the woman's quiet, repetitive sniffing nearby. A gentle patting sound echoes as Ian comforts the woman amidst the field of light. The morning sun shines brightly over the forest as birds chirp and music fills the air. A massive drake enjoys a peaceful moment lounging in a sun-drenched meadow while wearing shades. A soft click sounds as the beast pushes up its shades, noticing someone's arrival nearby. Ian and the woman emerge from the forest, greeting the lounging monster with a friendly wave. A soft padding sound occurs as the Drake greets the wizard and asks how he feels. Ian notes they must descend the mountain soon since the rest of the group is waiting. The wizard presents a small gift to the massive beast, who accepts the token with gratitude. With a sudden movement, the Drake offers to carry both travelers back down the mountain slope. Ian thanks the creature he calls Longtail, while the woman looks on with visible, sweating anxiety. Overwhelmed by the surreal turn of events, the dark-haired woman stares ahead in a complete daze. The beast orders the woman to climb on while she responds with a cry of terror. Ian corrects the monster's assumptions about their relationship, which leaves the giant beast baffled and surprised. Confusion clouds the woman's mind as she tries to process the bizarre rapport between boy and beast. Stepping forward, the wizard extends a helpful hand to the woman, who remains frozen in shock. Ian offers a reassuring smile and invites the woman to take a seat on the Drake's back. A firm grip sounds as the woman finally takes the wizard's hand to be pulled upward. Once they are both securely mounted, Ian signals for the massive creature to begin their journey. The ground trembles as the Drake charges forward, leaving a massive cloud of dust in its wake. Birds scatter into the bright sky as a panicked voice urges others to hurry and escape. Beside an abandoned cart, two men discuss the total defeat of their hired mercenary guards earlier. Trembling with fear, the mustached man shouts that they are doomed if they stay in place. The gray-haired man expresses skepticism that bandits would still be loitering in the forest right now. They argue over the intelligence of bandits while emphasizing the need for someone to take responsibility. Turning their attention to the seated leader, the subordinates desperately call out for Lord Leek's guidance. Clearing his throat with a loud ahem, the dignified elder prepares to deliver his final decision. A sharp focus fills the leader's eyes as he prepares to address his panicking subordinates directly. Striking a firm pose, Lord Leek commands the group to stay and wait for the wizard. One man reacts with shock while the other praises the guildmaster's unwavering and courageous decision. The group remains convinced that the wizard survived, given his previous victory over a powerful Drake. Despite their firm belief in the mage's return, the situation shifts drastically just 10 minutes later. Beaten and bound, the three men kneel in regret, wishing they had fled when they had chance. A sharp smack sounds as the eye-patch-wearing bandit leader tells the group to stop their whining. Drawing a sharp sword, the bandit leader threatens the cowering men and demands all their valuables. The leader demands they hand over a specific girl, causing the men to repeat his words. Growling with menace, the bandit describes a beautiful, bluish-haired woman and warns them not to lie. The captive men repeat the description of the beautiful woman while sweating profusely under the leader's gaze. An image of the smiling woman appears as the men realize the bandits are seeking Kathy. The bandit leader demands her current location while his subordinates search the surrounding forest for signs. Looking at an empty rock where she once sat, the men realize she has completely vanished. A sharp ring sounds as the bandit leader laughs, realizing his quarry has managed to escape. The bound men beg for mercy while the leader remains focused on his next aggressive move. Heavy footsteps thunder as a distant voice calls for the mage, causing the bandits to pause. Overjoyed, the captives weep while declaring their salvation has finally arrived in the form of the wizard. Wiping his brow, the bandit leader expresses total disbelief at the mention of a legendary Drake. Thundering through the trees, the massive beast carries Ian and the woman directly toward the bandit camp. Pointing into the distance, the bandit leader identifies the woman but looks puzzled by her mount. The bandits freeze in terror as they realize the woman is riding on a massive Drake. The bandits are paralyzed by fear as the massive Drake thunders toward them with glowing red eyes. A panicked voice shouts for everyone to run while the bandit group flees into the dense forest. A momentary lapse in the chaos allows the group to gather their scattered and weary thoughts. As the bright sun shines through the canopy, the group expresses relief that Kathy is finally safe. Lord Leek credits the mage for her safety, noting the subordinate looks like he was the one thrashed. The men question how the bandits knew about Kathy, noting they arrived looking for her despite their faith. Ian stands in silent thought as the men mention their affiliation with the powerful Church of Tenjin. Ian recalls the name as the world's dominant religion, which he hasn't heard mentioned in quite ages. Their holy doctrine strictly forbids slavery, though traffickers and slavers have long since abandoned those moral rules. Looking at the woman, Ian wonders if the relentless pursuers still refuse to give up on Lucy. He ponders their extreme persistence, questioning if they are truly that desperate to force her into marriage. Ian realizes they are bound to be tracked and envisions the bandits closing in on their trail. Turning to Longtail, Ian asks for a favor, and the Drake agrees to help his friend immediately. The young wizard gives a cold command to get rid of the men, even if it means killing. With a fierce and toothy grin, the massive Drake happily accepts the task of hunting for a friend. A sudden, powerful whoosh sounds as the beast leaps away, leaving Ian standing alone in the clearing. Ian reflects on the harsh necessity of toughening up to survive in this kill-or-be-killed fantasy world. A sharp ugh escapes the wizard as a shrill ringing sensation suddenly pierces through his entire head. Ian wonders if he overused the Moronius tongue again while Lucy watches him with deep, visible concern. Lucy asks if he is pushing himself too hard, but Ian dismisses her worries as he recovers. Grasping his arm, Lucy insists he looks unwell while the guildmaster watches the pair with curiosity. Rubbing his chin, the gray-haired man gazes at the two travelers with a knowing and mischievous sparkle. Ian raises a hand to reassure the worried woman that his discomfort has already passed for now. A rhythmic clacking sounds as the group travels by cart with Ian and Lucy resting in the back. Ian is jolted awake by a sudden movement as he senses a new notification from his internal system. A soft pop sounds as the system reports that the Drake has successfully eliminated 11 human targets. Ian thinks to himself that having the system report back his companion's progress automatically is quite handy. He laments the fact that he cannot summon the powerful Drake directly to his side right now. Ian turns his head in surprise as a voice suddenly calls out his name from nearby. In a mental vision, the Drake incinerates the bandits, confirming he has cleared out everyone in sight. Ian thanks the bees for being a huge help, and the Drake expresses joy in helping friends. They exchange a final farewell as they acknowledge that it is time for them to part ways. Reflecting on their bond, the boy feels sad knowing the Drake cannot leave the northern mountain range. Facing the massive creature, Ian offers his final thanks, and the Drake reciprocates the friendly, warm sentiment. The beast leans in to share one last detail as Ian looks on with a curious expression. A pristine, glowing white feather floats gracefully through the air, shimmering with a divine and magical light. The travelers arrive at Riverville, a bustling coastal town situated along the banks of a waterway. Ian ponders the rumors of a phoenix as the group walks through the town's paved stone square. A vision of an ice phoenix appears as the Drake suggests investigating the remote northern mountain peaks. The image of a blazing fire phoenix represents the legendary bird that can never truly die. Ian learns that phoenixes adapt to their environments, taking on forms of ice, wind, or even rock. These incredibly adaptable monsters are known to change their physical form based on where they choose live. Ian stares ahead, wondering if he could ever manage to make such a powerful creature his summon. A loud thudding sound echoes as the guild members run toward Ian to greet him with excitement. The gray-haired leader invites Ian and his companion to join them in visiting the local manor's lord. Ian thinks they should avoid the local nobility to keep Lucy's identity and presence a secret. The mustached man texted Kathy a place with them, causing her to stutter in visible nervous confusion. A bead of sweat rolls down Lucy's face as she looks up at the group, feeling overwhelmed. Pulling the woman close, Ian announces they will head to an inn to rest together before departing. The two subordinates react with total shock, their jaws dropping at the thought of them resting together. Ian stands alongside Lucy, whose face is noticeably reddened by a sudden and intense blush. Letting out a soft plop, Lucy leans into Ian while happily complaining about being completely exhausted. Lord Leek smiles knowingly as he watches the two young travelers sharing a close, quiet moment. The guildmaster laughs heartily, concluding for certain that the pair must surely be a couple. A stern-looking man in noble attire walks through the bustling crowd with a very focused expression. Lucy explains that pretending to be with Ian keeps idiots from bothering her during their walk. Ian reveals his commoner origins as a farmer's son, despite his current status as a mage. He attributes his polite nature to following the lead of his kind and respectful former master. As they walk, Ian asks about their plans, and Lucy mentions meeting with Count Katina soon. She explains the Count is her uncle who will surely help once she explains the situation. Lucy nervously admits her mother and the Count were only well acquainted, causing her to sweat slightly. Ian looks skeptical, privately worrying that a lukewarm family relationship might make their quest much harder. Lucy defends her uncle's character, insisting he is the most trustworthy person in the entire world. Ian hopes her confidence is well placed, noting that a truly good man would be their salvation. Lucy reflects that an uncle is preferable to strangers who are only interested in marrying her. She teases Ian about her marriage prospects, but he dismisses her constant nonsense with a sigh. Ian bluntly reminds her their contract ends upon arrival, leaving her shocked by his cold attitude. He remains unimpressed by her charms, pointing out that she isn't the only girl around. Fuming with visible rage, Lucy's face turns bright red as she reacts to his dismissive comment. Calling him a jerk, Lucy stomps away while Ian asks where she is going in town. A small bell rings above the wooden door of a warm and welcoming local traveler's inn. The group enters the establishment where the staff greets them with a loud and friendly welcome. Ian approaches the counter to request rooms and a hot bath for the next few nights. A heavy clink sounds as Ian drops a large pouch of coins onto the wooden counter. The innkeeper smiles at the sight of the gold, confirming the payment is more than sufficient. Her attention is taken by the innkeeper asking if the young lady will be bathing also. Lucy panics and frantically declines the offer, leaving Ian looking surprised by her sudden, intense reaction. Ian wonders if she fears the water is dirty, a suggestion she quickly uses as an excuse. Shaking with embarrassment, Lucy asks if she really has to explain the obvious problem to him. Ian stares at her with a blank and confused expression, completely failing to understand her modesty. The reality of the situation appears as Ian sees the large bathtubs offer absolutely zero privacy. Sudden realization strikes Ian as he finally understands why Lucy was so hesitant to bathe here. Ian corrects his request, asking for just one bath for himself while Lucy watches him silently. A deep sigh of relief escapes Lucy as she thanks the heavens for avoiding the awkwardness. Several rough-looking men in the common room leer at Lucy, their eyes fixed on her face. Ian's gaze sharpens into a glare as he notices the men's predatory interest in his companion. Ian tells Lucy to cover up, but she insists on being called Kathy instead of her name. He ignores her playfulness, urgently reminding her to hurry because everyone in the room is staring. Pulling the hood over her head, Ian mutters that she can be incredibly annoying at times. Three thugs share a wicked grin, captivated by the brief glimpse of the woman's stunning beauty. Outside the inn, the men's voices carry through the night as they discuss the beautiful stranger. They describe her as an absolute angel, claiming they have never seen anyone like her before. The leader notes she is only guarded by a scrawny boy, making her an easy target. Their dark intentions are revealed as they plan to snatch her and have some cruel fun. Cracking his knuckles, the thug decides they must kidnap her tonight before she manages to leave. High above the city, the sun shines through the clouds as business proceedings begin in earnest. The grand castle of the local lord stands tall with many spires reaching toward the sky. Baron Kultz, the Lord of Riverville, lounging on his throne, commands his visitors to avoid trouble. Lord Leek kneels respectfully before the noble, offering his sincere thanks for being granted an audience. The guildmaster thinks about currying favor to stay in the castle while performing his duties. A light bulb appears as Lord Leek decides to tell Baron Kultz about the Master Mage. Lord Leek kneels before Baron Kultz, asking if he might share some important news. Sparkling with joy, the gray-haired man presents his information with a grand and dramatic flourish. Baron Kultz laughs while stroking his mustache, granting the guildmaster permission to speak freely. The guildmaster reveals he encountered a powerful mage during his recent travels through the territory. He mimics the mage's movements, describing how the young man heroically saved them from danger. Pointing a finger, the gray-haired man prepares to share the Master Mage's location with the Lord. He excitedly reveals that the Master Mage is currently staying at an inn within the town. Baron Kultz reacts with absolute shock, loudly questioning the validity of the guildmaster's claim. The Baron worries about a capricious mage potentially throwing a tantrum and unleashing a deadly drake. A dark vision depicts Ian as a monster, commanding his beast to incinerate the townspeople. His face turns pale as he realizes the situation could actually get even worse than imagined. He reflects on the dangerous presence of a group of absolute lunatics currently within his domain. The Holy Santiago Knights are introduced as armored figures wielding a massive and shimmering sword. They are described as monks and martial artists who hunt specifically for demons and monsters. The self-proclaimed protectors of humanity stand ready with their blades crossed in a powerful symbol. The Baron fears the catastrophic outcome if the Santiago Knights and the Mage cross paths. He imagines a violent clash between the powers, with sparks of blue lightning erupting between them. A dramatic mental breakdown occurs as the Baron visualizes the total destruction of his territory. Panicking, the mustached noble screams for his commander to attend to him without any further delay. The older commander bows respectfully, immediately acknowledging the Baron's urgent call with a firm response. Baron Kultz commands that the traveler be given a room in the castle immediately for safekeeping. He orders the Santiago Knights to be summoned at once to prevent any potential trouble. A massive castle looms under the bright sky as the Baron's frantic commands echo through town. A low murmur sounds as Ian and Lucy share a meal while other patrons converse nearby. A man complains about his late food while the stressed waitress promises it will be ready. The waitress sighs, exhausted because she hasn't even had time to prepare the guest bathwater yet. Ian stands up, offering to handle the chore himself to help the overwhelmed and busy waitress. Ian tells Lucy to head upstairs and rest as soon as she finishes her warm soup. Lucy enjoys her meal in silence, completely unaware of the dangerous eyes watching her every move. One of the thugs from the common room leers at Lucy with a wicked, predatory grin. The waitress walks away with her tray, leaving the young woman alone at the wooden table. Finishing her soup, Lucy walks toward the stairs to head up to her room for the night. A man's hand grips Lucy's arm, asking if she is the companion of the black-haired gentleman. Turning in shock, Lucy demands to know who the man is and why he is touching her. The man lies, claiming he is an errand boy Ian hired to find her and deliver news. He presents a gold coin, claiming that Ian is waiting for her at the docks right now. The stranger spins a tale about an incident, urging her to find Ian as quickly as possible. Terrified, Lucy imagines the bandits have finally found them, her face paling as she considers the worst. The man insists they must hurry, and a frightened Lucy agrees to follow him into the night. Lucy steps down the stairs, following the stranger's lead while feeling a deep sense of unease. A sudden clatter sounds as the pair exits the inn and heads into the dark streets. The stranger leads Lucy through a dim alley as rain begins to fall on the cobblestones. A sudden pitter-patter sounds as Lucy stops, her eyes widening in realization of the nearby danger. She spots Ian in the backyard, peacefully heating a pot of water over a crackling campfire. A violent whoosh sounds as the man throws a black sack over Lucy's head to kidnap her. A sharp scream rings out through the rainy night as the woman is abducted behind the fence. Ian jolts as a voice calls his name, turning toward the fence with a startled expression. The boy looks around the empty backyard, wondering if he just heard Lucy's voice calling him. A sudden crack sounds as a thug lunges from the shadows, swinging a club at Ian's head. A sharp whoosh sounds as a thug swings a heavy club at the black-haired boy's head. Gwah! The man falls face first into the dirt while the black-haired boy watches with total indifference. The black-haired boy realizes these clumsy attackers are merely small fry rather than professional henchmen. Two men scurry over a fence with a heavy sack, shouting for their companion to hurry. A quick scuffing sound echoes as the black-haired boy prepares to pursue the kidnappers immediately. Blocking the boy's path, the fallen man shouts that he will never let him pass. Sighing in frustration, the black-haired boy realizes the delay caused him to lose the other man. Huh? The thug looks up in terror as a strange, shimmering blue light begins to swirl. The black-haired boy reflects on his current limits, needing a magic he can actually control now. Dark voices whisper that the light is fading, claiming it is the perfect time to play. Calling upon the shadows, the black-haired boy raises his hand and commands the darkness to appear. What? The thug gasps as a wave of pitch-black energy surges forward and consumes his vision. The man panics in the sudden void, unaware the black-haired boy stands right behind him now. A terrifying red glow ignites in the boy's eyes as he prepares to strike from the dark. Spare me! Painful thuds and desperate cries for mercy ring out from within the magical black fog. The black-haired boy listens to distant footsteps, wondering if the man has already called for backup. A low whistle sounds as the boy stands over the battered man, holding a long wooden staff. The black-haired boy demands to know where the men have taken his companion without any delay. A happy cry sounds as the man regains his sight, while the boy's annoyance visibly spikes. Gwa! The black-haired boy strikes the man again, shouting for an answer while feeling deeply insulted. A sharp zing echoes as a dagger flies through the air, narrowly missing the boy's face. A stern voice commands the youngster to stop as he stands over the trembling, defeated man. A gray-haired man asks if the black-haired boy was the one who summoned the unnatural darkness. A heavy silence settles over the area as the presence of the newcomer shifts the local atmosphere. The black-haired boy confirms he is the mage responsible for the darkness that recently covered the yard. The gray-haired man stares down at the boy, flanked by several stern-looking warriors in the courtyard. Ian senses an incredible bloodlust emanating from the formidable gray-haired man standing before him in silence. Please help me. The bruised man crawls toward the newcomers, tearfully begging for their immediate intervention. The man points a trembling finger, claiming the mage is trying to kill him for no reason. Eek! The man cowers behind the gray-haired leader as the black-haired boy glares at him intensely. A subtle, knowing smirk plays on the gray-haired leader's lips as he evaluates the tense situation. The leader remarks that such behavior is quite possible if the boy is indeed a true mage. Birds scatter into the bright sky above the courtyard as the confrontation reaches a quiet stalemate. A quiet, uncertain voice sounds as the pot of water continues to bubble over the campfire. The black-haired boy asks for clarification, his expression skeptical of the man's cryptic and strange remark. The leader explains that mages are naturally beings who do exactly as they please without any hesitation. Huh? The boy stands frozen in shock, completely baffled by the leader's bizarre definition of a mage. The warriors wonder what exactly the leader thinks a mage is after hearing his unusual description. A sharp snap sounds as the boy grips his staff, telling the men to stop their nonsense. The black-haired boy shouts that he was attacked first, insisting that nobody strikes others without provocation. A quiet rustle echoes as birds fly away, leaving the entire group staring at the boy's outburst. Gulp! The boy worries he lost his cool, fearing the old man might react by drawing a sword. A sudden burst of laughter sounds as the gray-haired leader finds the boy's foul language amusing. The leader claims the boy's speech proves his skill, noting that vulgarity is common for powerful mages. A man with a goatee steps forward, stating there was no need to use such wicked magic. The black-haired boy repeats the term in confusion, his eyes narrowing as he processes the specific phrasing. The goateed man explains that using darkness to blind others is an act of avoiding heaven's eye. Crossing his arms, the man proudly declares that hiding oneself in the darkness is a cowardly act. Huh? The boy reflects on the stranger's claim that rejecting the sun is a mark of cowardice. Realization strikes the black-haired boy as he recognizes the group's religious language belongs to the Santiago Knights. Ian identifies the group as sun god followers based on their specific religious rhetoric. The black-haired boy looks thoughtful as he prepares to counter the Knight's logic. Ian asks if day and night coexisting is heaven's law, questioning why night exists. Ian argues that darkness is merely the sun's absence and asks what is wrong with that. The goateed man stammers in disbelief, speechless after hearing the boy's clever theological counter-argument. Nearby warriors whisper in shock as they process the black-haired boy's unexpected and profound rebuttal. A cold sweat breaks out on the man's face as he struggles under Ian's gaze. The warriors burst into laughter, admitting they misunderstood him since darkness cannot exist without light. Ian watches the boisterous men with a sweat drop, thinking how strange these medieval people are. Ian asks to leave so he can rescue his kidnapped sister, shocking the nearby warriors. The leader asks if the attacker is an accomplice, while Ian and the thug confirm. The terrified man desperately denies the accusation while the knights loom over him with glowing eyes. The gray-haired leader commands Dictory to stay and guard the man while they prepare to move. The gray-haired leader apologizes for the delay and offers his hand to help the boy. The scene shifts to the river as a small boat flees into the evening sunset. A quick scuffing sound echoes as Ian and the knights sprint toward the docks together. Ian points toward the water, declaring that the boat is exactly where the witnesses said. The knights curse the villains for escaping by water as a fiery aura erupts around them. Ian notes the danger of boat travel after sunset as the knights remain intensely fired up. A sudden shout for everyone's attention rings out, causing the black-haired boy to flinch. The gray-haired leader looks back in confusion, wondering what the boy wants all of a sudden. Vowing to save the nameless soul, the leader commands his men to launch the boats. The Santiago Knights roar in agreement, promising to gladly accompany the boy on his mission. Ian reflects that their vow to protect the weak is actually quite cool despite their intensity. Ian warns that the boat is dangerous, but the older man dismisses his concerns. The gray-haired leader laughs heartily, explaining that this is simply his normal way of speaking. Ian announces he will pull the boat in, asking the knights to catch it when he does. The leader's eyes widen in shock as he questions if Ian truly intends to pull it. The leader asks how a shadow practitioner uses water magic, which Ian attributes to broad study. The veteran knight reflects on how unusual it is for mages to master multiple schools. Ian commands the river to move, unleashing a massive torrent of blue energy from his fingertips. A giant wave erupts from the river as Ian's power surges forward with an overwhelming force. The leader is astounded, admitting Ian's water magic far surpasses anything seen on the battlefield. The kidnappers panic as the water beneath their boat begins to flow backwards toward the shore. A massive wall of water surges over the boat, tossing the screaming men into the air. Splat! A massive splash sounds as the boat is caught in the violent magical torrent. A bright light illuminates the sky as the confrontation on the water reaches its conclusion. The boat sits empty on the dock as the morning sun rises over the river. Ian watches with indifference as the knights roughly lead the captured and groaning kidnappers away. Lucy lunges forward and hugs Ian tightly, sopping his name while he grunts in surprise. Ian tells the knights to stop their intensity because they are making his sister cry. Ian pats Lucy's head gently, acknowledging that she has certainly been through a difficult ordeal. Lucy continues to sob against Ian's chest as he holds her under the glowing sky. Ian lets out a weary sigh, his energy drained as Lucy finally begins to calm down. He reflects on his urgent need to return to the inn and take a bath. A narrative note mentions that Ian was still unaware of something important at that time. Finding a peaceful bath in this world would be very difficult. Bernard Kautz and the Knight Hansen gallop through town, shouting for the citizens to move. Plumes of smoke rise from a building, indicating that a battle has already broken out. Hansen worries that the Baron's dire concerns have already come true as they race forward. Narrative bubbles convey a sense of trouble regarding a naive young master who lacks worldly knowledge. A brown-haired boy and a sandy-haired knight ride their horses through the city streets together. A weary sigh escapes the sandy-haired knight as he reflects on his current difficult circumstances. As steam rises from a massive outdoor tub, several men offer to help the black-haired boy wash. He politely declines their enthusiastic help as they surround him. A sudden, heavy thud echoes through the quiet air as someone arrives at the building. The brown-haired boy and the sandy-haired knight rush toward the bathhouse, shouting in pure confusion. Looking completely unbothered while sitting in the tub, the black-haired boy simply explains he is bathing. The brown-haired boy and the sandy-haired knight stare in absolute shock at the boy's casual behavior. A splash sounds as the boy enjoys the water, despite Imperial citizens rarely bathing. With his eyes glowing with intensity, the brown-haired boy suspects something strange is definitely happening. He loudly declares that as the Lord's eldest son, he has every right to a report. The brown-haired boy demands a detailed explanation while the black-haired boy remains in the tub. Stepping forward, the gray-haired man introduces himself as Elder and offers to explain the situation. The brown-haired boy snaps at Elder, demanding to know why he is answering for the boy. Elder looks surprised as the youngster directs his annoyance toward him. Elder explains that the situation is unique because the individual in the tub is a mage. The brown-haired boy reacts with visible shock to the sudden revelation. Elder watches the scene closely, noting to himself that the boy seems to be following a specific plan. Identifying himself as the heir of House Kaltz, the brown-haired boy commands the mage to leave the bath and greet him immediately. Narrative text explains the custom of mage provocation, where nobles challenge mages to test their power. The text notes that calm mages are seen as weak, while angry ones are considered strong. Sitting in the tub, the black-haired boy wonders if this is the provocation Lucy mentioned earlier. Ian stares blankly and says he refuses. Bernard is stunned as his mouth drops open. The brown-haired boy explodes in a fit of rage, unable to believe he was just rejected. Furious, the brown-haired boy screams about the defiance as bright energy begins to spark around Ian. The black-haired boy asks why he should have to obey whatever the young noble says. The brown-haired boy orders Sir Hansen to drag the fraudulent mage out of the bathhouse immediately. Ian reflects on the young noble's outburst, noting to himself that the acting is actually quite impressive. Deciding to play along, the black-haired boy unleashes a terrifying aura and questions being called a fraud. Terror grips the two men as a massive, swirling blue energy erupts around the black-haired boy. Commands to rise up echo as Ian unleashes a violent torrent of energy, scattering wood and buckets. Panicking, Sir Hansen begs the boy to stop, immediately apologizing for his earlier rudeness and disrespect. A clatter sounds as heavy wooden tubs fall to the ground after the magical outburst. Stretching comfortably in the water, the black-haired boy thinks that display should make him back off. To Ian's dismay, the brown-haired boy begins sobbing uncontrollably, making the black-haired boy realize he messed up. A dark sense of dread fills Ian as he wonders if he will face execution now. The scene shifts to the next day, revealing a grand, towering cathedral under a bright sky. From within a luxurious room, a voice expresses gratitude for the guest accepting the formal invitation. The Baron apologizes for his son's trouble yesterday, while a chibi-style Ian cries and apologizes back. The Baron asks if Ian came alone, and the boy explains Lucy is staying at the inn. A mental image of the knights protecting Lucy appears as the narrator explains her face is hidden. Looking up at the ornate chandelier, the Baron acknowledges the boy's answer with a quiet nod. The Baron asks for the name of Ian's master, and the boy identifies her as Lady Eridas. The Baron recognizes her as a rising star and asks if she went south for the academy. Ian confirms she did. The Baron expresses concern that she did not head toward the Duchy of Polkar or Rockshrine instead. Ian asks for clarification as the Baron notes the atmosphere in the region has been tense lately. The Baron reveals that the Duchy of Polkar has recently been targeting the lands of Rockshrine. Ian gazes at the flags, wondering if the rising tensions mean a war is about to begin. Turning back to the boy, the Baron asks if he is also planning to head south. Ian clarifies that he intends to travel east instead to continue his search for ancient mysteries. The Baron offers to provide the black-haired boy with a special gift for his upcoming journey. The black-haired boy looks confused, questioning why the Baron would want to give him a gift. Ian stares at the ornate wooden chest on the table, wondering what is kept inside. The Baron gestures toward the table, encouraging the black-haired boy to open the gifted chest. With a look of slight apprehension, the boy begins to slowly lift the heavy wooden lid. A close-up reveals the boy's widened eyes as he gazes in awe at the hidden contents. Inside the chest rests a peculiar wooden staff, causing the boy to question what it is. The Baron explains that the staff, called Windstaff, once belonged to a great archmage. While the Baron admires the fit, Ian privately thinks the staff looks like a cheap prop. A small, sincere smile touches the boy's face as he reflects on the kindness of gift. The Baron presents the token as an apology, and the boy politely expresses his sincere thanks. Under a bright, clear sky, the boy formally accepts the Baron's gift to conclude their meeting. Back at the inn, a sudden and loud shout for Ian rings through the air. Rushing into the room, the black-haired boy demands to know what is causing the loud commotion. Looking extremely distressed, the purple-haired girl grabs the boy's arm and pleads for his urgent help. Inside a wooden cage, a black crow with glowing red eyes pleads for someone to help. The boy looks at the bird in confusion while the purple-haired girl smiles happily beside him. The veteran knight explains that the girl saved the crow from being eaten by a hunter. Chibi-style Lucy enthusiastically claims there is a destined connection between the boy's surname and this crow.
Chibi-style Ian stares blankly as his sister continues her animated explanation about their shared avian destiny.
With stars in her eyes, the purple-haired girl asks her brother if he feels the destiny. Chibi-style Ian bluntly suggests the hunter should eat the bird, leaving the girl in absolute shock. Asserting his authority as the mage, the boy dismisses his sister's talk as complete and utter nonsense. The knight suggests eating the bird for lunch, prompting the crow to scream for immediate help. Hearing the bird's desperate plea, the black-haired boy commands the hunters to wait a moment. Turning to the crow, Ian asks what it really is as it continues begging for mercy. While the others watch, the boy demands an answer while the crow continues its frantic pleas. Ian reflects on his failing mystery magic, wondering if he lacks the power to understand the situation. The boy tells the bird to be quiet, promising to save it while it continues begging. A vein pops on the boy's head as his irritation with the noisy bird grows rapidly. Losing his patience, Ian yells for the bird to shut up while reiterating his promise. The crow falls into a sudden and stunned silence, staring up at the boy with red eyes. A small smile appears as Ian notes the bird is smart enough to read the room. The knight is amazed by the conversation, and the boy confirms the crow's plea for help. Lucy suggests leaving the crow with them, feeling her intuition about the bird was finally proven. The veteran knight praises the girl's talent while the boy worries she is getting carried away. The boy carefully wraps a clean bandage around the crow's wing while the purple-haired girl watches. Ian asks his sister what they should do with the bird now that it is patched. Looking thoughtful, the boy reflects that returning the bird to the hunters ensures its certain death. The crow perches on the boy's arm, looking up at its savior with its red eyes. The bird begs not to be abandoned, claiming that the other humans are far too scary. Ian sighs that the situation is a pain as the crow perches on his blue cloak. The purple-haired girl asks if they are taking it, and Ian agrees to keep it. Sparkles surround the girl as she enthusiastically asks if they should give the bird a name. The boy notes that the bird actually seems to be enjoying all the attention from Lucy. Chibi-style Ian decides the name Oberon is better because the first suggestion was way too long. The boy gently pets the crow and officially announces that its new name is now Oberon. Oberon dramatically demands a tribute in exchange for favor while the boy wonders if it's happy. Lucy suggests traveling with the Night Order, and her brother asks for a more detailed explanation. Lucy imagines the muscular knights protecting them, while Ian thinks bandits won't mess with them easily. Sitting at the table, the boy wonders what will happen if the knights head elsewhere. The gray-haired leader approaches the boy, asking what he is agonizing over all of a sudden. Elder explains that even for a wizard, traveling alone with a woman is quite dangerous. Resting his hand on the table, the gray-haired man proposes making a mutually beneficial deal. Elder reveals they were traveling to capture a monster appearing in Count Katina's territory. The black-haired boy looks startled by the mention of a monster as Oberon watches. Sunlight fades through the window as a voice begins to ask a leading question. After asking if Ian knows of a manticore, Elder suggests they catch the beast together. A terrifying manticore roars over a pile of casualties under a blood-red moon. Tension radiates through the air as the gravity of the hunt begins to settle. Ian clarifies if Elder is seriously suggesting that they hunt the dangerous manticore as a team? The gray-haired man closes his eyes, claiming he does not wish to drag Ian into danger. A sharp glint appears in the older man's eyes as he considers his next words. The black-haired boy remains quiet, his face shadowed as he evaluates the man's true intentions. Ian's gloved hand rests firmly on the tabletop as he prepares to make his decision. Ian abruptly stands to leave, but Elder frantically grabs his shoulder to stop him. Elder insists that hunting is not his primary request while Ian watches him with suspicion. Elder explains their order was founded by the monastic order of the Heavenly God. The group discusses their plan to capture the manticore while Ian and Lucy listen intently. Elder notes that local priests forcefully demanded cooperation from a wizard, which caused significant trouble. The gray-haired leader asks Ian to use his status as a mage to smooth things over. Ian considers the offer, thinking that a request from a fellow wizard might be effective. Ian reflects that appeasing a sulking wizard in exchange for an escort is a fair trade. Looking up at the chandelier, the black-haired boy formally agrees to travel with the Night Order. Bright light fills the skies. The narrator notes traveling with the Knights was very comfortable. Rugged, misty mountains rise toward a clear blue sky as the journey continues onward. The group travels peacefully, with Ian carrying his new staff while noting the Knight's good character. Crackling logs burn in the campfire as Ian and his sister enjoy skewers in the forest. A knight calls out to the wizard, interrupting his quiet meal by the fire. With stars in his eyes, the brown-haired knight enthusiastically invites Ian to study the Bible. The knights cheer and hold up their books, eager for Ian to join their religious study. Ian gives a flat refusal, leaving the knights looking absolutely devastated by his lack of interest. Ian thinks to himself that he never expected them to push their religion so relentlessly. Elder comments that it is a shame, prompting Ian to ask what he means. Elder suggests that hearing God's voice could allow Ian to become a cleric for the order. Ian ponders the concept of hearing God's voice as he stares into the distance. Ian wonders if talking to God would reveal the secrets of his reincarnation and status window. The brown-haired knight named Dictry sits quietly by the fire reading a holy book. Ian approaches Dictry and asks if he can join in on the Bible study after all. The boy and the knight sit together, focused on the pages of the open book. A soft cooing sound comes from Oberon as Ian looks at the bird on his shoulder. While Lucy sleeps soundly against a log, Ian stays awake reading by the fire's light. A thought bubble praises the boy's dedication, calling his studious behavior a very good attitude. Ian politely thanks the voice for the compliment, still focused on the book in his hands. Looking confused, the knight asks what is wrong since Ian suddenly began talking to himself. Dictry panics and asks what voice Ian heard while the boy realizes someone actually spoke. A cold realization washes over Ian as he wonders if that voice was actually non-human. Oberon lets out a mischievous chuckle and speaks cryptically, leaving the boy completely stunned. Dictry recoils in shock as Ian points his wooden staff directly at the talking crow. Ian touches his head in disbelief, unable to process the bird's sudden and articulate speech. Shouting in shock, Ian asks if the bird is a god while the crow replies uncertainly. Clenching his teeth, the black-haired boy glares at the bird in a state of utter confusion. Ian shouts toward the heavens, demanding to know why he was reincarnated into this strange world. Frantic and desperate, the black-haired boy screams for the unseen presence to answer him immediately. Ian stares blankly up at the bright blue sky as Oberon watches him from his shoulder. The scene transitions to a quiet, dark forest under a night sky filled with distant stars. Ian looks stunned by the campfire, wondering if the recent mysterious voice was just a dream. With a pale, shocked expression, the black-haired boy realizes that the presence has actually left him. A vein of intense irritation pulses on the boy's head as he calls out into the silence. Ian yells at the sky for God to return while Dictry tries to restrain him. Ian screams for God to descend while the knights frantically plead for the boy to calm down. Dedicating himself to the task, Ian begins studying the Holy Scriptures with a frantic, obsessive energy. The boy explains he is only studying to speak with that shitty God one more time. A system window announces Ian has acquired the divine art skill to converse with the beautiful ruler. The system praises Ian's progress, leaving the black-haired boy startled by how fast it appeared. Multiple notifications urge Ian to study more to please the elegant, graceful, and holy absolute ruler. Staring at the glowing interface, the boy skeptically questions if this is really his supposed benefactor. Sitting cross-legged, Ian stares in disbelief at the overwhelming and persistent messages from the system. Ian realizes he is merely a puppet to an author god who snickers while looking down. Clenching his teeth in frustration, the boy curses his luck as Oberon watches him quietly. With a sigh, the black-haired boy accepts that the current situation simply cannot be helped. Ian decides he must gather more mysteries and points to further strengthen his divine magical power. Under a bright shooting star, the boy resolves to strengthen his arts for the trials ahead. A few days later, bright sunlight filters through the lush green leaves of the forest trees. Swords clash and blood splatters as the Night Order engages a group of bandits in battle. Elder delivers a decisive and powerful slash, cutting down an enemy with his expert sword skills. A defeated bandit falls to his knees in the dirt after the swift and violent confrontation. With blood on his armor, Elder turns to ask the wizard if everything is all right. Ian offers a strained, awkward smile while confirming he is fine despite the surrounding carnage. The boy notes the knights wiped everyone out as ghosts of the bandits float away. Lucy checks for injuries while Ian asks the gray-haired leader if he is also unharmed. Elder laughs heartily, boasting that despite his age, he would never lose to lowly bandits. Ian praises the man's former mercenary status, and Elder admits to being famous in his youth. Clad in his travel-worn armor, Elder stands triumphantly with his heavy sword by his side. Light and shadow shift across the scene as the group prepares to continue their long trek. Elder explains he uses an alias because his real name attracts too many unwanted challenges. Ian wonders if the old man is so famous that his real name is universally recognized. Raising his sword high, Elder announces their victory while the other knights cheer loudly together. Stopping at a fork in the road, a knight points out where the path divides. The eastern path leads to the castle, while the western forest holds the manticor's lair. Elder points toward the wizard's forest home while Ian stands silently behind him. The gray-haired man waves Ian forward, urging the group to hurry toward their next destination. The black-haired boy suddenly calls for a stop, catching the attention of his traveling companions. Ian suggests meeting the wizard first, but the purple-haired girl decides to go on ahead. Lucy insists she will be fine since the path to her uncle's place is very short. Waving with a bright and cheerful smile, the purple-haired girl says goodbye to her brother. Ian watches his sister disappear into the distance, wondering if she will truly be okay. The boy resolves to finish his business quickly so he can catch up with Lucy. Elder asks about the girl's departure, and Ian explains she is just running on ahead. While walking, Ian asks if they will meet the wizard soon, and Elder confirms they will. Grabbing Ian's shoulder, Elder asks if the boy is mentally prepared for the upcoming meeting. Elder warns that the wizard is currently very angry, making his potential actions completely unpredictable. Ian asks why they must fix the order's mistakes while Elder listens beside him. The gray-haired man looks visibly flustered and sweats under the boy's blunt questioning. A knight stands proudly, explaining they were paid, which quickly settles the minor dispute. Elder laughs heartily as the black-haired boy notices the knight's exceptionally high-quality armor. The leader reassures Ian that the grumpy wizard will likely be lenient for his sake. Ian considers the novelty of meeting another mage besides his own powerful master, Eridus. Green magical trails swirl around a small wooden cabin tucked away within the dense forest. An unsettling laughter echoes as the toxic green haze chokes local wildlife near the cabin. A tall, thin wizard named Manny Campbell stirs a large cauldron of glowing liquid. Manny recalls when knights rudely demanded her cooperation while citing the order's strict jurisdiction. The old woman expresses her extreme annoyance regarding the knight's previous and forceful demands. Monty insists that the travelers must eat her cooking before she offers any professional help. Staring into the glowing pot, the wizard mocks their courage regarding her foul concoction. With a wicked cackle, the plant mage challenges the knights to approach her bubbling cauldron. Ian stares at the cabin, questioning the specific nature of a plant mage's unique abilities. Elder explains that Monty Campbell is a renowned specialist in the field of magical botany. Elder details how Manny uses plant toxins for poisons, which are essential for hunting manticores. The knights gag from a foul stench while Ian recognizes a strangely familiar scent. Manny greets the group with a mocking laugh as they finally arrive at her doorstep. Elder covers his nose to block the smell while identifying the eccentric botanical mage. The old woman welcomes the group with a wide, toothless, and unsettlingly eager smile. Manny presents a pot of garlic and chicken, inviting the knights to enjoy the feast. Bundles of dried herbs and jars line the interior of the Mabe's dusty workshop. The knights struggle to keep their composure against the overwhelming and pungent smell of garlic. Elder critiques her dramatic display while Manny defends her dish made from homegrown crops. Manny tells the group they are free to leave if they refuse to be guests. The soldiers suffer through the stench of the green gas rising from the cooking pot. Looking at her guests, the wizard wonders if she pushed her prank a bit far. To everyone's shock, Ian begins eating the pungent soup with a look of pure joy. The boy happily gorges himself on the garlic, seemingly unaffected by the intense choking smell. Looking worried, the old wizard asks if the black-haired boy is truly feeling all right. Ian exclaims that the garlic soup is the most delicious thing he has ever tasted. Manny stares in disbelief, unable to comprehend someone actually enjoying her toxic-smelling brew. Holding up a clove, Ian insists that the garlic's quality is actually quite exceptional. A close view shows the boy enthusiastically taking another large bite of the garlic. The knights and Monty stand paralyzed in shock by the boy's bizarre culinary preferences. Screaming in frustration, Monty physically restrains Ian from eating any more of the dish. Manny calls Ian a crazy fellow for enjoying her cooking after decades of experience. Her expression turns serious as the old woman asks for the black-haired boy's name. Ian introduces himself, and Monty reacts with sudden, intense shock at his middle name, Meredith. Trembling, the wizard points a finger at Ian as she begins to realize his true identity. Manny asks if Ian is actually the disciple of the famous flame mage, Lady Aretas. Night falls as Monty apologizes for her earlier behavior and provides a much better meal. A succulent steak and a mug of ale are served as a sign of apology. Ian accepts the steak but silently misses the taste of the earlier boiled garlic chicken. The group gathers around the table to discuss their plan to hunt the dangerous manticore. Manny warns the group that capturing the beast will not be an easy task. A blood-red moon illuminates the terrifying manticore as it slaughters a group of professional hunters. Monty asks if Elder has ever encountered a manticore while the man remains determined. Elder's face hardens as he prepares to discuss the details of their upcoming hunt. Monty asks the black-haired boy about his thoughts while Ian responds with a questioning look. The old wizard Manny asks if Ian is a full-fledged mage since Master Aretas trained him. Monty suggests Ian lend his wisdom to the knights while Oberon sits quietly on his shoulder. Clockwork gears turn as a narrator explains mages must inevitably involve themselves with other people. Master Aretas smiles warmly, her brown hair and glasses framed by soft indoor curtains. Ian worries that refusing the proposal to catch the manticore might spread rumors in the mage circle. A diagram explains the mage circle is an organization ensuring the proper use of mysteries. The boy fears failure would dishonor his master and prevent other mages from offering help. Seeing the knight's hopeful expressions, Ian sighs and accepts that his participation cannot be helped. Determined, the black-haired boy looks forward and announces that he will join the knight's expedition. A new day begins as the scene shifts to the sunlight-dappled trees of a dense forest. Walking through the woods, Ian notes that the atmosphere feels somewhat ominous as the group progresses. Flying ahead, Oberon the Crow calls out to his master, announcing he has found something. Oberon identifies the manticore's location as Ian prepares himself for the dangerous encounter ahead. Elder asks if something is wrong while Ian points out the direction indicated by his crow. Looking impressed, the gray-haired elder praises the boy for possessing such an amazing magical ability. Ian explains how he taught Oberon human speech while the bird lets out a sharp caw. Manny senses an incredible bloodlust nearby while Chibi Ian asks Elder a sudden curious question. Watching Monty closely, Ian asks the gray-haired man if the manticore is also considered a monster. Black-haired boy wonders aloud if he would be able to successfully persuade the beast. Elder looks skeptical and strokes his beard while wondering if such a thing is even possible. Manny warns that a manticore is not the type of creature one can easily talk sense into. Yelling at the boy, Monty argues about summoning arts and insists she knows exactly what a mystery is. Monty promises to tell Lady Aretas everything if Ian actually manages to persuade the creature. Annoyed, Ian asks if she plans to tattle to his master rather than offering him praise. A knight points into the brush and alerts his master to something moving in the distance. Ian and his armored companions turn their gaze toward the shadows where the predator lurks. Standing in a defensive formation, a glowing green light illuminates the group within the dark woods. The knights and mages gather their resolve as they move deeper into the overgrown forest. Ian tells Elder and Monty not to leave his side while the old wizard confirms her understanding. Elder turns around swiftly as a voice calls out to him from behind. Monty reveals she coated everyone's weapons with poison as the group prepares for an immediate strike. Arrows drip with a special green poison that Monty developed specifically for hunting the legendary beast. Elder shouts the order to fire while a burst of green energy erupts from his hand. Ian watches silently as the knights release their volleys toward the unseen enemy in the trees. Projectiles whistle through the air, creating streaks of light against the dark, forested background. Ian's eyes glow with intense white light as the poisoned arrows fly toward their target. A sharp crackle sounds as the arrows strike the manticore but fail to pierce its hide. Elder is stunned to see the arrows bounce harmlessly right off the creature's thick neck. Desperate and sweating, a knight asks Elder for their next move while the leader looks flustered. A chilling laughter echoes from the dark as a voice suggests they must attack once again. A massive clawed paw steps into the clearing, dwarfing the knights as they watch in horror. Ian breaks out in a cold sweat while noting how chilling the creature's laughter sounds. Manny warns that the manticore is right in front of them with no time to reapply poison. Clenching his belt, the boy decides he has no choice and prepares to use his unique skill. Ian lets out a thunderous shout, calling the manticore's name to draw its full attention. The knights stand motionless as Ian steps into the clearing to confront the massive beast. Monty watches in shock as the boy successfully lures the manticore out from the shadows. The manticore looks down at Ian and notes that he is an unusual human for speaking. Trying to remain calm, Ian expresses relief that the monster is able to understand his words. Ian identifies himself as a mage, but a voice tells him to get lost. Ian freezes in place as a wicked cackling laughter echoes through the dark forest. The monster drops a foul gift on Ian's head while mocking the foolish human. The manticore tells the boy to drop the polite manners and reveal his goal. The creature demands that Ian speak up and state what he wants from him. Ian shocks the beast by calmly declaring that he is there for its scalp. A thunderous laugh, gwah, shakes the sky as birds scatter in absolute terror. Ian stands his ground, unfazed by the creature's mocking and overwhelming presence. The beast suggests that the boy should betray the humans in joint sight. Ian looks disgusted as the monster invites him to help slaughter the nearby knights. The manticore revels in the idea of devouring the meat of the fallen knights. The beast offers Ian wealth and slaves in exchange for betraying his human companions. The monster licks its thumb, delighting in the prospect of its cruel, bloody plans. Ian sighs at the monster's depravity while the knights wait for his command.
Stomping his foot, Ian declares that the monster's vile words are too sickening.
Ian calls the creature a piece of filth for suggesting such a horrific portrayal. Defiant, the boy insults the manticore with a crude gesture to show his disgust. Confused knights watch as Ian prepares to unleash a powerful magical technique. A thunderous sound shakes the area as Ian's magical power begins to surge violently. Massive glowing green vines suddenly erupt from the ground, surprising everyone in the woods. Ian stares toward the sky as the atmosphere changes under his growing magical influence. The manticore lunges forward, deciding that the boy is now a target worth killing. Ian is stunned to hear the bee speaking in a language he recognizes. Monty Campbell shouts a command for her botanical magic to grow and take form. A heavy stomp on the ground, boom, sends a ripple of green energy outward. Shimmering green light fills the air as the botanical magic begins to bloom fully. Manus vines ensnare the manticore, lifting the struggling creature high into the air. Elder watches in silence as the witch completely immobilizes their dangerous winged target. Elder demands to know what Manny has done, but the witch claims she ate the manticore. Elder realizes with horror that his own knights were also caught in Monty's vines. Monty argues that the knights will manage while she focuses on finishing the monster. A sudden exclamation, "Wah!" draws the attention of the shocked, gray-haired Elder. Ian rushes toward a fallen comrade while calling out for the group's leader. A voice calls out for a pause as the chaotic situation finally unfolds. The clear blue sky remains peaceful despite the bloody battle occurring below. Elder frantically checks on his men after the magical plant attack finally subsides. Ian addresses Elder with concern as they assess the damage to their team. Ian looks on in disbelief as he notices a tragic sight among the knights. The group stares in somber silence at a fatally injured knight gasping for breath. Elder refuses to accept the reality of his comrade's dire and bloody condition. Ian remains silent while preparing to address his dying friend one last time. Ian grips the book on his belt tightly, feeling the weight of the tragedy. Recalling memories of Dictory, Ian finally understands the brutal reality of death in this world. The silhouette of a predatory beast looms over the scene like a dark omen. Ian reflects on how deaths he once only read about are now terrifyingly real. The boy stands before a headstone, accepting the grim truth of a mage's life. A heavy, somber silence settles over the group in the wake of the loss. Ian sprints toward the mourning knights with a newfound and somber sense of purpose. Ian comforts the dying Dictory by recalling a shared lesson about the Bible. Offering a gentle smile, Ian tries to bring peace to his friend's final moments. A peaceful blue sky stretches above, signaling that the heavens are about to open. The black-haired boy looks toward the horizon as leaves drift gently through the air. Close to death, Dietrich lets out a weak smile and a faint, final word. As light gathers, Ian holds his friend's hand and invites everyone to pray together. A close-up reveals Ian's eye reflecting the shimmering intensity of the unfolding magical phenomenon. A voice tells the boy that his version of heaven is found right here. Ian reacts with sudden shock as the spiritual atmosphere around the group shifts violently. Ian prepares to try a desperate act of restoration if that is his true wish. A massive pillar of brilliant blue light erupts from the ground, piercing the forest canopy. Shimmering magical particles fill the clearing as the surge of restorative energy reaches its peak. Elder and the knights watch in stunned silence as they call out Ian's name. The light intensifies around the fallen knight while someone notes the boy's incredible power. Ian stares at his glowing hands, visibly shaken by the weight of the magic used. From within the blinding light, a celestial command calls for Dietrich to finally awaken. Dietrich finds himself kneeling before a magnificent golden cathedral appearing in a realm of light. A blonde woman in white robes descends from the sky toward the bewildered kneeling man. Staring up in awe, the sweating man asks if the woman is truly a goddess. Floating gracefully above him, the goddess expresses her genuine happiness at seeing the man again. Dietrich bows his head low, completely overwhelmed by the divine presence standing before him. Trembling on the floor, the man concludes that he must have finally reached heaven. The goddess smiles kindly as Dietrich looks up and asks if there is a task. Reaching out, the blonde woman prepares to deliver a message to the man's soul. The blonde woman commands the man to help the weak and bring them happiness. Placing a gentle hand on his head, the goddess grants the kneeling man a blessing. The goddess commands him to return and assist her chosen apostle, the young Mage Ian. Shimmering light fades as the woman declares that these instructions are her final wish. A brilliant flash of golden white light marks the end of the divine encounter. Dietrich's eye snaps open in the real world as the last of the magic fades. Elder shouts in joyful disbelief that the man is awake and asks if he's all right. Sitting up among the knights, the confused man wonders aloud about where he currently is. Ian stands nearby and calls out the man's name to get his full attention. Holding his staff, Ian asks the man how it feels to return from the dead. In a comical panic, Dietrich grabs Ian and yells, asking what the boy did. Crying, the man asks if Ian saved him on orders from that great divine being. Ian lets out a nervous, sweating smile as he watches the man's dramatic emotional outburst. Ian reflects that since his magic was borrowed from the goddess, the man's assumption is correct. Dietrich asks how he knew to help, and Ian explains the goddess's direct command. The man recalls the goddess's warm smile and her insistence that his work wasn't finished. Overwhelmed by the revelation, the man lets out a loud, exaggerated scream of pure shock. Ian looks satisfied while Dietrich bows deeply to the boy he now sees as divine. Watching from afar, the knights suspect Dietrich was hallucinating despite the miracle they just witnessed. The group stands together in the clearing as the immediate crisis of death finally passes. Monty Campbell notes how energetic the group is despite having just nearly faced total destruction. Elder rallies the knights, asking if they should resume the hunt, and receives a resounding cheer. Ian prepares to send Oberon ahead, but Elder worries about the crow facing potential danger. Ian dismisses the concern and sends the blackbird flying deep into the ominous woods. The gray-haired man looks on with a confused expression, baffled by the boy's calm demeanor. Behind Ian's serious face, the terrifying visage of the manticore remains a dark, looming threat. With a cold look, the boy declares that they must beat the creature to a pulp. A scream, "Gah!" echoes through a distant village under a dark and ominous evening sky. A manticore tears through a panicked village, sending people fleeing from the winged lion beast. A younger man with black hair and an older man run frantically for their lives. The older man's hand slips as he's pulled away from his companion's desperate grasp. The black-haired man screams for his father as the older man falls onto the hard ground. Frozen in terror, the younger man watches helplessly as the situation turns dire and seemingly hopeless. A thunderous roar echoes against the orange sunset as the predatory monster prepares to strike. The massive manticore looms over the cowering gray-haired man, its sharp fangs bared in a snarl. The beast's heavy paw stomps down, cracking the pavement right before the fallen gray-haired elder man. The manticore bellows a command for the villagers to leave the town immediately and never return. Brandishing a pitchfork, the younger man defiantly calls the creature a monster despite his visible trembling. The manticore laughs and asks if the elder is the man's father while mocking human speech. The beast offers a cruel deal for the man to kill his father and surrender him. The manticore promises to spare the remaining humans if the man commits the horrific requested betrayal. The monster's face twists into a sadistic, toothy grin as it awaits a desperate and fearful answer. The man rejects the offer, questioning how the monster could think he would agree to that. Looming closer, the manticore's yellow eyes gleam with malice as it prepares to kill them both. The manticore lunges forward with a swipe of its claws, intending for the young man to die. The man shields his father from the attack as a flash of steel intervenes a strike. The manticore is caught in a violent red haze of combat as the battlefield suddenly shifts. Blood sprays into the air as an unseen force manages to wound the terrifying winged beast. A row of knights in silver armor charges toward the manticore with their swords drawn. Ooh-wah! A knight strikes the manticore, causing a bright explosion of energy against the monster's chest. The survivors are relieved to see the arrival of the elite warriors known as Santiago's Knights. Standing tall, the gray-haired leader knight orders his men to prepare for a fierce, bloody battle. Knights surround the manticore as arrows fly toward the creature's face in a coordinated group assault. The scene shifts into a blur of motion as the fight for the village suddenly intensifies. Roaring in pain, the manticore calls the humans insects for daring to challenge its overwhelming might. The beast mocks the mage, calling him a stupid and desperate bastard for standing there alone. Ian stays calm as the monster calls his current struggle at this point completely and utterly futile. Enraged by the mage's silence, the manticore screams for the boy to shut up and die. Ian Meredith mocks the monster, calling it all bark and no bite like a sore loser. Driven by pure rage, the manticore charges toward the mage, declaring his actions to be insolent. The massive beast sprints across the open field, closing the distance to its stationary magical target. Ian smirks as the manticore realizes something is wrong with the surrounding magical energy and atmosphere. The creature continues its charge despite the arrow lodged deeply in its bleeding singular eye socket. Monty Campbell invokes the name of Flora as green magical energy swirls around her wooden staff. Monty clenches her hand and commands her botanical magic to grow and entangle the large target. Thick green vines bind the manticore's limbs, leaving the confused beast completely and utterly immobilized. Seeing the perfect opening, the commander shouts for the final attack to begin right this second. A signal horn blasts through the air as the knights prepare their next decisive combat move. A flurry of strikes hits the trapped manticore as it struggles against the magical green restraints. The beast howls in frustration, accusing the humans of using cowardly and cheap magical combat tricks. Manny Campbell turns to Ian and declares it is finally his turn to take a stand. Ian's blue eye narrows with intense focus as he prepares to unleash a powerful finishing spell. Pointing his finger, Ian calls upon the element of fire to incinerate his monstrous winged enemy. Ian commands the flames to burn, sending a massive pillar of roaring fire into the manticore. Embers and flicking tongues of flame drift through the air as the magical heat quickly intensifies. Ian Meredith stands amidst shimmering magical particles, his expression cold and his power fully unleashed. The sky glows with the remnants of the explosion as the manticore's presence begins to fade. The scene shifts to a peaceful blue sky as the intense battle finally reaches its end. The morning sun shines over a peaceful village with traditional timber-framed houses and clear blue skies. Grateful villagers bow deeply to the knights, thanking them while the leader accepts their praise modestly. Ian stands off to the side, feeling awkward as the gray-haired leader knight laughs heartily. Oberon asks if Ian feels left out, but the annoyed boy tells his bird to be quiet. Ian assumes the villagers are terrified of him because he incinerated the manticor with a fireball. A sudden presence behind him makes Ian jump as he hears someone trying to get his attention. Two villagers thank the Lord Mage for saving their lives, offering their sincere and humble gratitude. Ian awkwardly accepts the thanks, thinking that his motivation wasn't simply to receive praise from others. The gray-haired leader knight calls Ian's name, causing the boy and his crow to jump in surprise. Ian frantically insists that Monty deserves all the credit, while the others watch with amused smiles. The knight tells Ian to raise his head, silently admiring the boy's rare and humble personality. The leader knight reflects that a boy with such power and humility might surpass the nobility someday. A heavy clacking sound echoes as a group of armored knights approaches the clearing in formation. New knights from the castle arrive and ask if this group was responsible for the manticore's capture. The gray-haired leader confirms their identity as the castle knights introduce themselves and their high-ranking affiliation. Ian looks puzzled by the mention of the castle as a knight invites him to come alone. The scene shifts to a grand white palace where Count Katina has requested the mage's presence. A majestic chandelier illuminates the dining hall as a voice welcomes the brave warriors to the estate. A luxurious feast is prepared on the table as the host praises their justice-driven souls and bravery. Count Katina laughs joyfully while holding a glass of wine, clearly impressed by his new guests. The leader knight remains humble as the count laments the lack of capable knights in his castle. The count wishes his own men were as skilled as the visitors, leaving his knights looking ashamed. The count assures Manny that her forest home will remain protected from any interference by the priesthood. Turning to Ian, the count mentions he has heard many interesting stories about him from his niece. Ian is caught mid-meal with food stuffed in his cheeks, oblivious to the count's direct address. A muffled chewing sound precedes Oberon, pointing out that the host is talking specifically to Ian. The count is stunned by the boy's blatant lack of table manners and his casual, indifferent attitude. Ian looks up with a blank stare, finally realizing that the conversation is directed toward him. Ian apologizes for his rudeness, claiming the food was too delicious and the crow was being distracting. The count mentions Ian's assistance to his niece and snaps his fingers to bring out a reward. A chest opens to reveal a brilliant golden magic scroll, leaving Ian completely speechless and mesmerized. A narrator explains that tearing the golden scroll in half will immediately unleash its powerful magical effects. Ian gazes at the scroll with sparkling eyes, sensing the incredible quality of the ancient magical text. The count asks Ian if he is satisfied with the specific gift that was prepared for him. Bowing politely, Ian thanks the count for the precious gift while the host laughs off the gratitude. The count explains that the scroll is a small price for the safety of his niece, Lucy. A sharp snapping sound echoes as the host signals for someone else to join them dinner. A purple-haired girl named Lucy enters the room wearing an absurdly tall and oversized wizard hat. Ian struggles to hold back his laughter while wondering where such a ridiculous hat could have come from. Lucy sits down sheepishly as Ian continues to stare at the bizarre headwear with a judging look. The purple-haired girl looks nervous and begins to sweat as she tries to start a friendly conversation. Lucy asks Ian how he has been doing, and he responds with a short, blunt acknowledgement. The leader knight jokingly suggests that the two young mages must be lovers, embarrassing them both. Ian gets straight to the point, asking the count what favor he wants in return for the gift. A sharp gulping sound escapes Lucy as the count mentions a journey to avenge his niece's honor. The count's expression turns serious as he asks the brave warriors to lend him their combat strength. Ian realizes the golden scroll was a down payment for a dangerous mission on a future battlefield. Ian considers providing moderate magical support from a distance, just like he did during the manticore hunt. The boy imagines himself surrounded by piles of gold, hoping for a massive payout from the mission. Ian puts on a polite face and agrees to help if the help of a lowly mage is needed. Ian Meredith looks thoughtful as he considers the next steps of his journey through the kingdom. 3 days later, Monty mentions her uncle's disappointment at missing their departure, while Ian remains indifferent. Salvador warmly welcomes the pair to visit Tarian territory again, promising a hospitable reception. Cue! Salvador smiles kindly as the two young mages share a brief, supportive moment together. Ian notes the knight shortage caused by Count Katina's mobilization while imagining the count's greedy nature. Salvador offers his sincere thanks to Ian for his assistance, and the boy politely reciprocates. The leader knight invites Ian to visit Trifar Island, a name that clearly puzzles the boy. Salvador explains that mentioning his name on the floating island will guarantee Ian a warm welcome. Ian asks if Salvador is the knight's real name, and the older man grants him permission. Ian is visibly stunned as he realizes the legendary weight behind the name Salvador of Orcus. Manny exclaims in shock, recognizing Salvador as the former leader of the legendary White Wolves mercenaries. Monty asks Ian if he knows about the group that flourished directly under the former emperor. Narrator text explains the emperor once granted the leader of that group the title Swordmaster. Manny is overwhelmed with awe upon realizing she's standing before a legendary living swordmaster. Salvador bashfully scratches his chin, looking embarrassed by the sudden praise for his legendary martial title. A promotional banner depicts a realm on the edge of annihilation during a massive monster invasion. Manny remains completely starstruck by the legend while Salvador looks away with a humble, awkward smile. Ian and his crow look entirely bored, having absolutely no interest in the man's famous title. The title card for Chapter 19 features Ian and Oberon amidst swirling blue and white energy. Manny calls Salvador a living legend, but Ian dismissively agrees just to end the energetic conversation. Salvador laughs at the boy's reaction, noting that such an indifferent response is very typical of Ian. Salvador reflects on how challenged he usually is by others, finding Ian's lack of reaction refreshing. Before departing, Salvador smiles and asks Ian to send his best regards to someone named Eridus. A group of soldiers shouts their gratitude in unison as the travelers prepare to leave. A knight tearfully vows they will meet again, while Ian looks annoyed by the emotional farewell. Salvador turns and walks away from the clearing, his long gray ponytail swaying in the breeze. A final firm handshake between the legendary warrior and the young mage seals their mutual respect. Ian promises himself that he will eventually visit Triffer Island once the current situation has stabilized. Salvador gives a final warm smile, expressing his hope that they will encounter each other again. Green leaves drift through the air as the scene transitions toward a new grand location. A blue flag featuring a golden crest of crossed weapons snaps vibrantly in the high wind. Count Katina stands atop a platform, addressing a massive formation of silver-armored knights in the courtyard. Lucy pleads with her uncle to bring justice to the person responsible for her mother's death. The Count's expression turns dark and vengeful as he whispers the name of his target, Graham. A man with reddish-brown hair named Graham is revealed as the usurper who killed the Count's sister. The Count plans to marry Lucy to a retainer, effectively bringing the Talion barony under his control. A sharp glint of ambition appears in the Count's eye as he calculates his political moves. Turning back to the mages, the Count decides to speak with Lucy after this mission is over. Raising a fist, the Count declares that he will judge the hateful usurper Graham under the law. The knights in the courtyard roar in approval, shouting for the long life of their Count. With a fierce battle cry, the Count orders all his soldiers to follow him into battle. Night falls over the landscape as leaves continue to drift across the dark, cloudy evening sky. A large military encampment of white tents is established near a tall wooden fortification at night. Goo! Ian stirs a pot of boiling water, claiming he is simply boiling a metal spoon. While soldiers eat their dinner, Monty watches Ian with a deeply confused and slightly worried expression. Soldiers whisper that the mage is making spoon soup, but Ian snaps that he is merely sterilizing. Manny looks bewildered by the unfamiliar term, having never heard of the modern concept of sterilization. Ian considers it a mystery and assumes that explaining modern science to them would be completely futile. The two soldiers look at each other with blank expressions, unable to grasp the mage's cryptic explanation. A soldier approaches the campfire and tentatively addresses the mage as the evening meal continues. Two soldiers offer raw meat, asking to boil it, while Ian looks on with annoyance. A sprawling military encampment rests under a quiet, dark cover of the moonlit night sky. Lucy ponders a specific thought, prompting a curious Ian to ask what she is considering. Lucy mentions a promised reward while a memory of Ian comforting a weeping girl surfaces. A sudden flash of realization crosses Ian's face as he processes Lucy's previous statement. Lucy decides against gold coins, seeking a more meaningful gift while Ian waits for her conclusion. Lucy describes the legendary magic sword Anarishal, which was gifted to the first Baron by a fairy. Lucy explains how the Baron saved the fairy realm, though Ian dismisses it as fiction. Ian questions why Talion is only a barony despite possessing such a powerful magical weapon. Lucy defensively explains that the legendary events occurred over 4 centuries ago while pointing a finger. Ian asks for more details as his crow perches calmly on his blue cloak shoulder. Lucy reveals the sword is buried in a grave, leaving Ian shocked by the revelation. Ian expresses his disgust at the idea of desecrating a family grave to retrieve the sword. Ian questions the world's morals, comparing the ancestors' final resting place to a time capsule. Gesturing toward Lucy, Ian suggests she keep the valuable family heirloom for her own house. Ian argues for family pride over political exploitation, causing Lucy to look away with intense emotion. Under the moonlit watchtower, Lucy acknowledges that Ian gave her the strength to finally fight. Lucy clenches her hands tightly, overcome with gratitude for the young mage's unexpected support. Standing up, Lucy declares she will provide the precious item to show how grateful she is. Lucy runs away into the night, leaving Ian calling after her in complete and utter confusion. Ian scratches his head, worrying that his blunt words might have pushed Lucy too far. A soldier approaches and calls out to the mage as Ian turns back toward the camp. An armored man informs Ian that the Count has an urgent request for him to hear. Silence hangs over the castle rooftops as the full moon glows through the thin night clouds. A commoner defends his home with a pitchfork against 3 soldiers he identifies as common thieves. The soldiers mockingly demand 3 chickens as payment for leaving the man in his home alone. As the soldiers threaten the man, they notice a crow and wonder if it belongs to Ian. The 2 armored men peer up into the dark trees, searching for the source of the movement. Caw! The talking crow startles the soldiers by announcing that his master has finally arrived. Terrified by the speaking bird, the soldiers cower as a dark, blue-cloaked figure approaches them. 3 soldiers huddle together as they tremble in sheer, paralyzing terror under the dark sky. Looming over them with a glowing staff, Ian asks the cowardly soldiers what they are doing. A mysterious emblem appears as the story transitions into the next phase of the journey. A dark dragon roars under a solar eclipse, signaling a shift in the story's atmosphere. Radiant white light streaks across a dark background, signaling a shift in the scene's focus. 2 candles burn steadily on a stone mantle, casting a warm glow in the dark room. Seated across from each other, the Count asks Ian for a favor while the boy listens. The title card for Chapter 20 features Ian wielding magic against a swirling blue background. The Count clears his throat awkwardly as Ian notes his host's obvious difficulty in speaking. The Count asks Ian to intervene and stop the mercenaries from committing evil acts in town. Ian questions why knights aren't used, making the Count look down with a deeply ashamed expression. The Count explains that his knights are too close to the mercenaries and often overlook crimes. The host admits he might have allowed looting for morale, but things have now changed. A golden light illuminates the Count's reasoning as he finishes his difficult explanation about the looting. The Count explains that this town is his niece's territory as he thinks of Lucy's smile. With a serious and desperate gaze, the Count pleads for the young mage's essential assistance. Caw! A loud squawk from the crow echoes through the night as Ian considers the task. The 3 thieving soldiers are bound with thick rope, looking up with faces full of regret. Ian sternly berates the men for acting like common thieves while his crow echoes his judgment. Ian vows to make an example of the soldiers as they beg for mercy from the mage. Sunlight filters through the clouds over a peaceful village with traditional half-timbered houses. Ian looks down at 2 kneeling soldiers while a large bird shadow looms over the ground. Fear grips the soldiers who refuse to leave, terrified that certain death awaits them outside. The Count and Lucy share a moment of joy upon receiving some incredibly positive news. A knight in silver armor kneels before the Count to deliver an urgent report. An ominous warning appears against a dark, hazy sky, signaling that something terrible has happened. The Count and Lucy look visibly shaken and distressed by the knight's unsettling revelation. Ian stands calmly between his hosts as an unexpected problem begins to complicate their mission. The knight's face is etched with concern as he continues his grim explanation. Ian questions why the situation is dire when they possess a force of 400 soldiers. The kneeling knight laments that their army has become harmless because they aren't actively fighting. Glowing embers drift through a scorched, dark void, reflecting the heavy atmosphere of war. Narrative text explains that while looting might have provoked local resistance against Graham, it didn't happen. Townspeople cheer outside the castle while a symbol indicates their strong rejection of the mercenaries. The peaceful march unintentionally allowed the usurper Graham enough time to consolidate his military forces. A monstrous shadow looms over the city as a giant hand crushes the helpless populace. Ian reflects on the army's stagnation, noting that their inability to act has destroyed soldier morale. The young mage sighs deeply, finding the current political and military stalemate to be incredibly strange. The knight asks if the Count will finally permit looting to restore the soldiers' spirits. Looking toward Ian, the Count asks if the mage has a strategy to resolve the issue. Lucy remains silent, her golden eyes filled with worry as she listens to the unfolding discussion. A focused gaze highlights Ian's intense concentration as he begins to formulate a new plan. Ian admits that he believes there is still a potential solution to their difficult predicament. The Count and Lucy are filled with sudden hope, begging the mage to reveal his method. Soldiers stand at attention in the background as the group discusses their next tactical move. 2 soldiers whisper among themselves, finding the young mage's confident attitude to be quite disrespectful. The scene shifts to a quiet room within the Talion territory as the morning sun rises. A local man yells in frustration at a crow, calling the bird noisy and annoying. The man is suddenly startled by Ian's silent presence, gasping in shock as the mage appears. Ian points his staff at a field while the confused farmer demands to know his identity. A soldier identifies Ian as a legendary disciple, causing the man to instantly panic and apologize. Beads of sweat roll down the man's terrified face as he realizes the mage's status. Prostrating himself, the man begs for forgiveness for his earlier rudeness toward the famous visitor. Ian looks on with a cool, detached expression while his crow perches stoically on his shoulder. Ian dramatically claims the wheat is ruined, leaving the kneeling farmer in a state of confusion. Raising his staff, Ian performs a dramatic show, claiming that evil energy has infested the land. Ian declares the first Baron's soul is furious because the territory was stolen by a usurper. The farmer breaks down in tears, desperately asking the mage how to appease the angry spirit. Shh! Ian commands silence as a mysterious flash of light punctuates his supernatural performance. Ian claims the heavens demand that Lucy Talion inherit the barony to restore peace to the land. Ian points toward more ominous energy while soldiers rush through the field to assist him. The Commodore looks horrified as a voice laments that Graham's rule is ruining the entire territory. Time passes as the mage's carefully crafted rumors begin to spread throughout the local population. Civilians begin to revolt against Graham, throwing food at banners to demand Lucy's rightful succession. Red stains splatter across a defaced banner as the people's anger toward the usurper grows. Morale soars as Lucy joins the people in throwing tomatoes, while Ian watches his plan succeed. In the moonlight, a soldier watches the group, contemplating the sudden change in the army spirit. A bright rainbow arches across the soft clouds, symbolizing a new hope for the territory. A knight addresses the Count from a wooden watchtower as the sun begins to set. The soldiers proudly declare their refusal to fight a dishonorable battle under a corrupt ruler's name. A knight informs the Count that Ian is spreading rumors about a town-wide curse. The Count despairs, fearing their honor will fall if they stay with such a mage. Ian questions the logic of believing rumors he admitted were lies just to discredit him. The soldiers stand united, accusing Ian of attempting to trick them with his magical schemes. Ian's cold eye highlights his question about whether they will dismiss everything he says now. Ian sighs at the forced argument, finding the soldiers' logic to be incredibly weak and frustrating. The armored knights assert that they are the primary actors in any successful military campaign. Ian notices the Count's face shows he understands and agrees with the soldiers' disrespectful assessment. A somber realization appears, stating that without the knights' cooperation, the battle cannot actually happen. Crossing his arms, Ian wonders if there is even a need for him to stay here. Ian reassures the Count, while the startled noble reacts with a sudden, visible jolt of surprise. Ian offers to depart the camp if his presence is truly such a burden to them. A knight stares forward intensely, his face sweating as a heavy silence falls over the group. Shrouded in blue energy, Ian warns them never to think of asking for his help again. A menacing horned emblem with a glowing red eye signals a dark shift in the story.